Chapter 1738. Even in the dark of the night, her red dress was still very dazzling. Her elegant and free figure carried a wildness and wildness. Her red dress made a whistling sound in the wind. She was high up in the air, like a fairy from the 9 heavens who came on the breeze. As if they had sensed something, the Emperor of Dong Yao Kingdom and the gray-robed elder who were rushing toward the north gate stopped at the same time and looked back. When they looked back, they saw the red figure coming from the sky. The young man in a dazzling red dress came from the night sky. His red dress was dazzling, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was so handsome that it was hard to tell whether he was a man or a woman. His aura was ethereal, but no one dared to look down on him. She appeared to be in her 20s, but the pressure emitted from her body caused people to tremble in fear. As her eyes moved, they felt as if they had nowhere to hide as she swept them with her oppressive gaze. This person was Fengjiu, the ghost doctor. It was said that Fengjiu, the ghost doctor, liked to dress in red. As a woman, she liked to dress in men's clothes. Her beauty was devastating, and her cultivation was mysterious. Who else could it be if not this person in front of them? They originally thought that the rumors were exaggerated, but now they knew why the ghost Dr. Fengjiu's name had spread so quickly. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, with such means and courage, let alone a woman, there were not many men in the world who could be compared to her. It was not a loss for the Qishui Empire to be destroyed by her. However, even if the Qishui Empire was destroyed, his Dong Yao kingdom would not be destroyed. No matter how powerful Fengjiu was, he must kill him tonight at all costs. You two, stand down, Fengjiu, who stopped in midair, said to Lung Shuang and Lung Hua behind him, facing a fairy realm expert. The two of them were unable to withstand the pressure emanating from him. Yes, the two of them responded and quickly retreated to a safe distance. The gray-robed elder's gaze fell on Fengjiu. He scanned him with his divine sense and said to the Emperor of Dong Yao Kingdom, Emperor, Fengjiu is a cultivator at the middle stage of the fairy realm. We can definitely kill him with our combined strength. Good, let's kill her first. The Emperor of Dong Yao country had also noticed that the power emanating from Fengjiu's body was that of a fairy realm cultivator. Since both of them were fairy realm cultivators, the two of them would definitely have a chance of winning. Thus, after instructing the others to eliminate the Phoenix guards at the north gate, the two of them gathered their qi and blocked Fengjiu from both sides. Fengjiu, you really don't want to take the path to heaven, but you insist on entering the gates of hell. Today, I want to see what you're capable of. As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword appeared in the monarch's hand. After injecting his spiritual power into it, he instantly attacked Fengjiu. Seeing this, the gray-robed elder gathered a stream of air in his hands and charged towards Fengjiu, preparing to take her down with a pincer attack. However, Fengjiu, who was watching the two approaching from the left and right, curled his lips slightly, revealing a strange and evil smile. Is that so? I'm also very curious to see how many moves you can take from me. With a move of her hand, the Qing Feng's sword, which was glowing with a sharp green light, appeared in her hand. Moreover, in the next moment, she no longer concealed her aura. Instead, she displayed her own power and cultivation. Chapter 1739. Celestial Saint Powerhouse. The two of them screamed. When they sensed the pressure and aura of the Celestial Saint Powerhouse, their faces turned pale. How could they still have the will to fight? Quick, run. They did not even have the will to fight. When they came back to their senses, their first thought was to run. Run as far as they could. The strength of a celestial saint was equivalent to the strength of 100 fairy realm experts. They would have to be crazy to overestimate their own abilities to fight against her. At this moment, they couldn't help but curse loudly. Who is it who said that she's only at the nascent soul stage? Run? Fengjiu, who was behind them, curled her lips into a smile. Do you think you can run away? As soon as she finished speaking, the red figure instantly swept toward the gray-robed elder. As the red figure swept past him, the gray-robed elder, who was originally running away in a panic, stiffened and fell from midair. Bang! No one saw how she had acted. She did not even need to fight, as she had easily ended the life of a fairy realm master. The body of the gray-robed old man, who had fallen to the ground, twitched. His eyes were fixed on the sky until he breathed his last. When the Emperor of Eastern Glory Kingdom heard the commotion, he turned around abruptly. When he saw that the gray-robed elder's neck was bleeding as he breathed his last, his whole body trembled. Since they had cultivated to the fairy realm, death was already something that was very far away from them. However, when death loomed over them at such a close distance, he suddenly realized that death was not far away from them all this time. When he saw the red-robed Fengjiu coming toward him with the Qing Feng's sword, many things flashed through his mind. In the end, he did not run away. Instead, he fell from midair and knelt on the ground. "Don't kill me. I'll serve you as my master." When he said this, his eyes were filled with terror and fear. Yes, he was afraid of death. At his level of cultivation, he was even more afraid of death. He had everything that many people would never be able to obtain in their entire lives: power, status, fame, and fortune. He did not want to die like this. He did not want his royal family to be slaughtered. Therefore, he could only lower his head and beg Fengjiu, because he knew that this was his only way out. Only in this way could he have a chance to survive. His Dongyao Empire would not be destroyed in his hands and would not fall into chaos like Qishui. The Emerald Edge sword was pressed against the forehead of the Eastern Glory Monarch who was kneeling on the ground. As long as it was an inch closer, it could easily take his life. However, the Emerald Edge sword in Feng Jiu's hand suddenly stopped. She looked at him and raised her eyebrows. "What did you say?" "I said, I'm willing to serve you as my master. I, Dong Yao, am willing to listen to your orders. I only beg you to spare Dong Yao and spare my life. I will go through fire and water for you and be loyal to you." As he spoke, as if he was afraid that she would not believe him, he immediately made a heaven and earth contract to serve her as his master. Seeing the light of the heaven and earth contract dissipate, Fengjiu's eyes flashed. He stared at the monarch for a long time. After a long time, he moved the emerald edge sword in his hand away. He stretched out his finger and tapped the monarch's forehead to extract a strand of consciousness. "Fine. Since you serve me as your master, I'll spare your life. However, you must remember that from this moment on, your life and your Dongyao Empire are in my hands. You have to obey my orders." Chapter 1740. Thus, Fengjiu brought him to the sky above the north gate. Looking at the people fighting below, she said, "Everyone stop." Her voice, which contained the might of a celestial saint, came down from the sky like a huge net, causing everyone below to stop. At this time, the people of Dongyao Empire had already suffered countless casualties. Everyone raised their heads and was surprised when they saw the Emperor of Dongyao Empire, who was respectfully following behind Fengjiu. The Phoenix Guards and the others looked at each other and stepped forward to bow. "Greetings, Master." Fengjiu responded and said, "From today onwards, Dongyao Empire belongs to me, Fengjiu." Hearing this, the guards of Dongyao Empire below were in an uproar. They were somewhat in disbelief, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that it was reasonable. These Phoenix Guards were so strong that just a few dozen of them could deal with more than 100 of them. Moreover, there was also the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, who could easily kill a fairy realm expert by herself. If the Eastern Yao Empire were to join her forces, it would only be beneficial to them. At least, they would no longer have to worry that ghost Dr. Fengjiu would attack them again. "Hurry up and kneel." The Emperor of Dongyao Empire shouted behind Fengjiu. Hearing this, the people of Dongyao Empire hurriedly knelt down. At this time, they were either injured or dead. There were less than 1/3 of them left. Moreover, the palace was set on fire and scattered in all directions. It would probably take a few months for it to recover to its original state. On the other side, after hearing Fengjiu's voice, Guan Shilin, Hui Lang, and the others looked at each other and quickly stopped fighting. They brought their men over. When they arrived at the north gate, they were actually a little surprised when they saw the scene. With Fengjiu's strength today, it should not be difficult for him to destroy Dongyao Empire, but she took it under her force. They just did not know if they would really submit to her after killing so many people of Dongyao Empire. At the same time, the people of the major families outside the palace looked at the rising flames in the palace and could not help but sigh. They thought that Dongyao Empire might really be finished just like that. However, who knew that soon? Another piece of news came. What? The emperor has submitted to Ghost Dr. Fengjiu? An ancestor of a family widened his eyes in astonishment. Yes, he has also made a heaven and earth contract to serve Ghost Dr. Fengjiu as his master, the secret guard reported. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the monarch would make such a decision? Another old ancestor gasped and murmured. The great ancestor beside him stroked his beard and said, "There's nothing wrong with that. Surrendering to Ghost Dr. Feng Nine and protecting Dongyao Nation is something anyone would do." Ancestor of the ancestor. That's right. Compared to the extermination of one's clan, what was wrong with submitting to another and worshipping the strong as their master? The most important thing was protecting they wanted Dongyao's Dongyao Empire. Search. Let's see what we'll do next. One of the patriarchs waved his hand and gestured for the secret guard to leave. He ancestor emperor, the ancestor family guard ancestor. Left is ancestor. The others nodded one after another. Not only is she not simple, she has great strength and can destroy the royal family with a raise of her hand. She is also tolerant. Her breadth of mind is indeed not something that ordinary people can compare to. Chapter 1741. A few of them looked at each other and did not speak. They had not fought with Fengjiu before, so they naturally did not know her strength. However, to be able to force the emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country to submit to her, it was clear that she was not simple. In the main hall of Dongyao Palace, Guan Shilin, Du Fan, and the 8 captains of the Phoenix Guard stood on the left and right sides. Lung Shuang and Lung Hua stood on the left and right sides of the main seat. Sitting on the main seat was Fengjiu, who was dressed in a dazzling red robe. She reclined in her seat and supported her face with one hand. She looked at the emperor of Dongyao Empire, who was standing in the middle of the hall, and said slowly, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, I will leave the rest to you." The emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country gulped and asked, "Please enlighten me. I will leave the remaining 2 empires to you. In a month, I want these 2 empires to disappear," she said in a low voice. Hearing this, the emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country was shocked. A month? How can you do it in a month? The distance between these 2 empires is also quite far. Can't you do it? She glanced at him and asked slowly. Seeing her gaze on him, the emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country quickly lowered his head and said, "Yes, I will definitely do it within a month. I will not let you down. Brother, bring some people and help him. In a month, I want these 2 empires to disappear." Fengjiu looked at Guan Shilin and said, "No problem." Guan Shilin replied loudly and accepted the task. Hearing this, the emperor of Dongyao Heavenly Country was overjoyed. That's great. With Guan Shilin's help, it would be easier to get things done. Fengjiu thought for a while and said, "Bring Tun Yun and Lao Bai with you too. Let them have more experience and have a good rest today. You are dismissed." Yes, everyone responded and walked out. Only Guan Shilin stayed behind. "Xiaojiu, aren't you afraid that there will be problems in the future if you take over Dongyao?" Guan Shilin asked what he was worried about. After all, only the emperor of Eastern Glory Nation had signed the heaven and earth contract. "It's fine," she smiled and said, "With this lesson, they won't dare to be enemies with us even if we don't make a contract with heaven and earth. Moreover, there are some benefits to taking over Dongyao. At least, many things are now for Dongyao. If they really dare to have second thoughts, it won't be too late to destroy them in the future. Since you said so, then let's do it." Guan Shilin sat down and said, "Leave the rest to us. Are you going to the Xinyuan Empire first? Mose must be very anxious from waiting." Let's go and see if there are any other problems with him. After helping him deal with this matter, I'm going to the upper continents." She looked outside with a deep gaze, unable to forget the scene of her home and family being destroyed. "All right, don't worry. Leave everything else to me," he said in a deep voice. Fengjiu nodded and looked at him with a smile. "I'll bring Hui Lang and Lung Shuang to the Xianyuan Empire tomorrow. If there's anything, you can contact us again." Hearing this, Guan Shilin responded, "All right, I understand." That night, the people of Dongyao Empire were bandaging their wounds and recuperating. The Phoenix Guards and the others had already settled down in the resting area. Only 2 guards were left to rest. Chapter 1742. Xianyuan Empire. Xuanyuan Mose looked at the white-robed man standing in front of him with a gentle smile on his face, looking like an immortal. He couldn't help but frown. "What are you doing here?" His tone didn't hide his dislike and disdain for the man. This man always casually appeared in front of the woman he loved. He didn't have a good impression of him since the first time they met. In his opinion, this man always stuck to his woman's side and was an eyesore. Mo Chen's handsome face had a gentle smile on it. He looked at Xianyuan Mose, who was sitting in front of the desk in a black robe. He hadn't seen him for half a year, but the aura of a king on his body had become even sharper. He exuded a domineering aura that didn't make him angry. Mo Chen couldn't help but sigh. The Emperor's Star was indeed the Emperor's Star. "Don't worry, I'm not here to look for you. I'm here to wait for Fengjiu." He walked slowly to a chair and sat down. He picked up the teacup on the table, but there was no tea. He said to Ying Yi, who was hiding in the shadows, "Ying Yi, get someone to bring me a cup of tea. I haven't even had a drink on the way here." Ying Yi glanced at Mo Chen, who was acting as if he was in his own house, and then looked at his master, whose face was dark. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Ying Yi flashed out and asked someone to make 2 cups of tea. He personally brought them in, placing 1 cup on his master's table and the other beside Mo Chen's chair. "Then you should know that she's not here." Xianyuan Mose took a sip of the tea, but his face was still dark. A man who looked like a pretty boy, came to tell you that he was here to wait for your woman. One could imagine how he felt. He knew that his woman was very popular. If he was not careful, anyone would target her. However, so many things had happened in the past 6 months. The 2 of them had not seen each other for more than half a year. Moreover, the 2 of them had always been apart more than together. It was no wonder that he felt a sense of crisis. Mo Chen nodded. "Yes, I know she's not here, but she should be back soon, so I'm waiting for her here." He had a gentle smile on his face as he glanced at Xianyuan Mose and took a sip of his tea. Then he said unhurriedly, "Moreover, I plan to stay by her side this time. After settling the matter here, I think she will want to go to the upper continent. It just so happens that I'm familiar with that place. With me by her side, you don't have to worry too much." He stood to the side and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He felt that the temperature in the palace seemed to have dropped a bit, and there was a murderous aura in the air, which made him feel extremely nervous standing here. This young Master Mo Chen, was he purposely trying to stir up trouble? Wasn't he worried that his master would kill him in a fit of anger? However, speaking of which, who was stronger between the 2 of them? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look back and forth between the 2 of them, secretly guessing. Young Master Mo Chen came from a family in the upper continent. It was said that his family had an extraordinary position there, and he was also the disciple of Tianji Elder. His background was not inferior to his master's at all. Chapter 1743. Is that so? Then this monarch would like to see if you have the qualifications to say such words. As soon as he finished speaking, the teacup lid in his hand instantly shot out towards Mo Chen. Mo Chen, who had been drinking his tea, raised his head to look at him and revealed a warm smile. "I'm very willing to accompany you." As he spoke, he raised his hand and turned it. The teacup lid that was flying towards him stopped in front of him and did not advance any further. Instead, it spun in midair. Following the movement of his hand, the teacup slowly fell into his hand, easily neutralizing Xianyuan Mose's attack. "A teacup with a lid. I already have one, so I'll return this to you." A warm voice rang out, but the teacup lid in his hand was extremely fierce. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose stretched out 2 fingers to catch the teacup lid and placed it back on the teacup. Then, he stood up, and with a flash of his black figure, he had already rushed out. Seeing this, Imo-chan put down the teacup in his hand. With a refined smile on his face, he slowly walked out. Looking at Xianyuan Mose, who was standing outside the palace, he smiled and said, "I've just arrived, and you're already attacking me. That's not very kind of you. This monarch has already treated you to tea. What's wrong? Not very kind. Since it's like this monarch will give you another greeting gift after not seeing you for so long." As soon as the deep and magnetic voice rang out, the black figure rushed out and attacked Imo-chan, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Imo-chan's spiritual aura was released in an instant. His white robes fluttered and his black hair fluttered. Facing Xianyuan Mose's attack, he was not alarmed or fearful. Instead, he was as calm as before, and a warm smile hung on his face. It wasn't until Xianyuan Mose's black silhouette was right in front of him that he finally made his move. The 2 silhouettes, one black and one white, were exchanging blows outside the palace. A powerful aura surged from both of their bodies. Although they were fighting barehanded, every strike made the shadow guards and Ing-yi, who were hiding in the shadows, fearful. This was a battle between experts. There were no weapons in their hands, but the aura that permeated the surroundings was so powerful. The aura of the 2 people seemed to be equally matched, and the pressure they exuded couldn't tell which one was stronger. Their speed was extremely fast, and with the strength of Ing-yi and the others, they simply couldn't see their moves. They could only see one black and one white, neither giving way to the other. Bang! Ing-yi's eyes widened as he saw his master suddenly turn his palm into a fist and punch Imo-chan in the eye. Imo-chan drew in a sharp breath and hurriedly covered his eye and retreated. When he moved his eyes away, there was a red bruise around his left eye. The red bruise did not match his fairy-like appearance at all. It looked a little strange, and people who saw it could not help but smile. "You dare to slap me in the face?" Imo-chan's gentle face cracked, and the smile on his lips could no longer be maintained. Xianyuan Mose calmly glanced at him and curled his lips in a good mood. "Benjun only added some color to your eye. It's much more pleasing to the eye this way." Imo-chan's mouth twitched. "So that's how it is. Then I really have to thank you." As soon as he finished speaking, he attacked again. "No need to thank me. This is what Benjun should do." He had wanted to beat him up for a long time, but one punch was too little, and if he hit the other eye, it should be enough. Chapter 1744. And, pooh! With a groan, he spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backwards. Imo-chan was stunned, as if he had not expected this to happen. He should have been able to dodge that attack, but why did he pull back his fist in an instant? Also, although his palm had hit him, he had held back 70% of his strength. He knew that the power of that palm was not enough to make him spit out blood. Just as he was puzzled, he heard a familiar voice with a cry of surprise. He instinctively turned his head, and when he saw a red figure flitting past him like the wind, he finally understood. Zay. Fengjiu supported him as he fell. She saw that his face was pale, but he was still holding on. When he saw her, he revealed a surprised expression, and his deep eyes could not hide the joy and affection. Ajio. Just as he spoke, his entire body fell into her arms, as if he had fainted. Zay. She supported him, and did not ask why Imo-chan was here. She immediately carried Xianyuan Mose in her arms and walked towards his chambers. Ing-yi, who was hiding in the shadows, was speechless. He did not expect his master to suddenly do this. This completely overturned his understanding of his master. So when his master was two-faced, he could be like this. Immediately, he came out from the shadows, glanced at Imo-chan, and quickly followed. Hui Lang, who had followed behind Fengjiu, was also dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He originally wanted to quickly step forward to help support his master, but who knew that Leng Hua beside him would pull him back. Then, he saw the ghost doctor directly carry his master. It was undeniable that when he saw his master, who had an imposing appearance and a domineering aura, being carried in a princess carried by the ghost doctor to the bedroom, he was really a little confused. This ghost doctor had been pretending to be a man for too long. Did she forget that she was a woman? In this world, how could a woman directly carry a man in a princess carry? Perhaps his master was very happy, very satisfied, and very enjoyable, but he felt that it was very strange just by looking at it. Lung Shuang looked expressionless, but the gentleness in her eyes and the smile on her face could not be deceived. On the other hand, Lung Hua laughed. Master's temperament is so direct. Yama, Lord hasn't seen Master for so long. He must miss you very much. As he spoke, he looked at Mo Chun, who was standing in front of him in a white robe, and slowly walked forward. Mo Chun was still in a state of shock. Seeing Feng Jiu directly carry Xian Yuan Mo's in his arms was far more impactful than seeing Xian Yuan Mo's scheming. He never knew that women could be like this, directly carrying a man by the waist. That scene was very strange, but it seemed so natural for the two of them, without any sense of disharmony. From that scene, he saw that Feng Jiu attached great importance to Xian Yuan Mo's. She didn't care about the opinions of others. She only had eyes for him. That kind of deep love expressed in her body language made him, as a bystander, feel a little uncomfortable. But he also knew that if there was such a woman who loved him deeply, perhaps he would be like Xian Yuan Mo's just now, and use some scheming to win the beauty's pity and tenderness. But when the person being schemed against was him, his mood wasn't very good. Chapter 1745. Hearing this voice, Mo Chun came back to his senses. Looking at the gentle youth in front of him, he smiled and asked, "Say, if I went to visit Xian Yuan Mo's now, would your master be unhappy?" Lung Hua smiled and said, "If young Master Mo Chun is worried that my master will be unhappy, you can go later." Hearing this, Mo Chun shook his head. "How can I do that? If I go later, the misunderstanding will get worse. Even if she is unhappy now, I still think it's better to go and clear things up." Saying this, he nodded slightly at him and walked towards the bedroom at the back. Seeing this, Lung Hua's smile deepened, but he stopped and did not follow. "Let's go. Let's tidy up first." Lung Hua walked over from behind and said to Lung Hua, "All right." Lung Hua replied with a smile and left with her. Hui Lang scratched his head and looked at them for a while. He muttered something and then walked toward the bedroom at the back. As for Xian Yuan Mo's, who was being carried by Feng Jiu to the bedroom, he attracted the attention of countless people along the way. No matter if it was the palace guards or maids, or the hidden guards hidden in the shadows, when they saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Most of the guards and maidservants in the palace did not recognize Feng Nine. Therefore, when they saw their noble and dignified crown prince being intimately carried to his bedchamber by a man in red, they all whispered to each other, "Who is that? Heavens! Am I seeing things? I actually saw His Highness being carried by a man. But that man in red is really handsome. He doesn't look strong, but he easily carried His Highness the Crown Prince. But doesn't His Highness the Crown Prince dislike people getting close to him? How dare this person? What's wrong with His Highness the Crown Prince? It looks like he fainted. What do you know? That's the ghost, Dr. Feng Jiu. She's a woman and is said to be our Crown Prince's wife. They're just short of marriage." Really? Why didn't such a big piece of news spread? Many people know about this. Moreover, our Crown Princess isn't an ordinary person. News has spread that Qishui province was destroyed by our Crown Princess. The one who spoke was a guard. He raised his head and puffed out his chest as he spoke to the crowd. A white-clothed young master just passed by. Who was that? I don't know about that, but to be able to move around in the palace, he definitely isn't an ordinary person. Look, that person is heading in the direction of the Crown Prince's bedroom. Perhaps he's heading for the Crown Prince and our Crown Princess. After a while, Hui Lang walked over from behind and heard their conversation. He glanced at them and said, "What are you talking about? Aren't they all gone now?" When they saw Hui Lang, they lowered their heads and hurriedly dispersed. Hui Lang shook his head and looked at the figure in front of him. After thinking for a while, he felt that it would be better to talk to Ying first. In the bedroom, Fengjiu put Xianyuan Mo's on the big bed. Just as he was about to take his pulse, he saw that the person who had just closed his eyes woke up. "I'm fine." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he looked at her in front of him. His deep eyes were filled with pity as he said, "You've lost weight." As he spoke, he reached out and touched her face. Chapter 1746. Don't worry, it's just a small injury. Don't blame Mo Chun. He didn't expect you to suddenly come. Cough, cough, cough. Xianyuan Mo's coughed a few times as he spoke. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile, but she didn't show it. She just nodded seriously. "Yes, don't worry, I won't blame him. I think he didn't mean it." Xianyuan Mo's, who had one hand clenched into a fist by his lips, was stunned when he heard this. He instinctively looked up and happened to see her teasing gaze. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed and gently coughed. "You must be tired from the journey, right? Do you want to rest?" As he spoke, he shifted his body on the bed to make room for her. "No, I'm worried about your injury. No matter what, I have to boil some medicine or something to drink," Fengjiu said while holding back her laughter. Xianyuan Mo's mouth twitched. He felt like he had shot himself in the foot. In a flash, he saw that she was already holding his hand and taking his pulse. Seeing this, he could only let her take his pulse. Not long after, Fengjiu withdrew her hand and said, "There's nothing wrong with your body, just that your liver is a little hot. You didn't rest well. You need to rest more." As she spoke, she pulled the blanket up and covered him. "You rest well here. I'll go out and talk to Mo Chun." "What's there to talk about with him? Are you close to him?" he asked with a hint of jealousy in his voice. Fengjiu rested her chin on one hand and thought for a while. "Yes, I'll go out and ask him why he hurt you. I can't let you get hurt for nothing, right?" Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo's reached out and pulled her onto the bed. He lifted the blanket and covered her with it. He bent his arm, and she lay in the crook of his arm. He then reached out and hugged her tightly with both hands. "That person isn't a good person. Stay away from him in the future." Fengjiu chuckled. "Stay away from him in the future, lest you get hurt by him again. I went easy on him. Otherwise, how could he be my opponent?" He snorted softly, but the corners of his lips curled up. He hugged the person in his arms and revealed a satisfied smile. Perhaps it was because he hadn't had a good rest recently, but he soon fell asleep while hugging Fengjiu. Feeling his steady breathing, Fengjiu smiled, nestled in his arms, and closed his eyes. After not seeing him for so long, she missed him very much. She just didn't expect him to do this as soon as they met. It really made her angry and amused. Outside, Mo Chun, who had just entered the palace, was stopped by Ying. Ying looked at him, his voice flat. "Young Master Mo Chun, my master and the ghost doctor are resting. Please come back later, young Master Mo Chun." Hearing this, Mo Chun's eyes flashed with surprise. He glanced inside and smiled. "That's fine." He didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Not long after, Hui Lang walked over. Just as he was about to enter, he saw Ying walk out. He waved his hand and called out with a grin, "Ying, I'm back." Ying glanced at him. "I saw you. How is Master? How did he get hurt by young Master Mo Chun? Is he all right?" As he spoke, he stretched his head to look inside the palace to see if there was any sign of the ghost doctor. Chapter 1747. "Oh, that's right. You must not have received the news." Hui Lang grinned. "Even if you did, you wouldn't be as fast as us. Come, let's sit over there and I'll tell you." He put an arm around his shoulder and walked towards the stone chair in front. "Let me tell you, Dong Yao has submitted to the ghost doctor." The two sat by the stone chair with a pot of tea and 2 plates of desserts. They talked about the submission of the Dong Yao Empire. In the evening, Fengjiu got up first and left the room. When she saw Ying and Hui Lang waiting outside, she asked, "Ying, how is the monarch's health? Has he gotten better recently?" "Ghost doctor, the monarch has taken the medicine sent by the ghost doctor. His health has improved, but he still can't cultivate." Hearing this, she nodded and said to Hui Lang, "Come with me to take a look." Okay, Hui Lang replied and walked out with her. The two of them went outside. After walking for a short distance, they saw Imo Chun, who was dressed in white and looked like an immortal, standing under a tree. It was unknown what she was looking at. Grey Wolf's mouth twitched when he saw this. He felt that Imo Chun had purposely come here to be a high-grade ghost doctor. Fengjiu saw this and stopped in her tracks. She looked at the person by the tree and slowly walked up to him. What are you looking at? Imo Chun looked at her and smiled elegantly. I'm looking at the birds on the tree. He was originally a gentleman, but unfortunately, on his handsome and gentle face, there were dark circles around his eyes, and blood was faintly visible. Seeing this, Feng Nine couldn't help but smile and pointed at his eyes. Why don't you find some medicine to apply? Walking out with such a swollen eye, he wasn't afraid of ruining his image as young Master Imo Chun. I left it on purpose so that you could see how heavy-handed Xianyuan Mo's was, he said helplessly. I didn't even provoke him. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and took out a bottle of medicine from his sleeve. This medicine has the effect of promoting blood circulation and removing blood stasis. Apply some tonight, and you'll be fine tomorrow morning. I won't say thank you. He took the medicine and put it away. Fengjiu shrugged. I'm going to see the monarch. Excuse me. I'll go with you. As he spoke, he looked at her, who was looking at him with raised eyebrows, and said, I also just arrived at the Xianyuan Palace today. I exchanged a few blows with Xianyuan Mo's, but I haven't paid a visit to the Xianyuan monarch yet. I'll go with you. All right, let's go then. She walked forward, gesturing for Hui Lang to lead the way. Ing Yi, who was not far away, watched silently until their figures disappeared into the horizon. Then, he retracted his gaze and walked inside. When Xianyuan Mo's woke up, he saw that Fengjiu, who was beside him, was already gone. He got out of bed and stretched. He felt that his sleep was very comfortable and deep, and the fatigue in his body seemed to have lessened quite a bit. When he walked out, he saw that Ing Yi was waiting outside, but Fengjiu was nowhere to be seen. He asked, Where is she? Master, the ghost doctor went to the monarch's place, Ing Yi reported. How long has she been gone? He looked at the sky and asked. About the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. Hui Lang accompanied her, but halfway there, they met young Master Imo Chun and seemed to have gone together, Ing Yi said. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo's raised his eyebrows and walked out, heading straight for his imperial father's palace. Chapter 1748. How is it? Is it going to be like this from now on? You can tell me directly, the Emperor of Xianyuan said as he looked at Fengjiu, who was dressed in red. Fengjiu smiled faintly and said, Don't worry. Although it is crippled, it can be cured. Seeing that the Emperor of Xianyuan did not seem to believe her, she said, It's true. I'm not lying to you. You just need some time to recover. After you recover, you'll have to restart your cultivation. Hearing this, the Emperor of Xianyuan was in disbelief. His body trembled slightly as he asked, Really? He could still cultivate? Really? Fengjiu nodded affirmatively. But my Danton, it's fine. It can be repaired. She smiled and said, I will stay here for a period of time to help you recuperate. You don't have to worry. I will first prepare some medicine for you to consume. Then, I will help you refine a pill that can repair your Dantian. As she said this, she flipped her hand and waved the badge in her hand. Trust me, I'm not lying. Hearing this, the Emperor of Xianyuan felt his eyes heat up. He felt like he was going to cry. Only after experiencing it personally did he understand the pain of being crippled from a powerful cultivator to a mortal who could not cultivate. Because his cultivation had been crippled, his original appearance had also changed greatly. His entire person had aged overnight, and he had become so weak that it seemed like he could die at any moment. This experience was worse than death. Now, after hearing Fengjiu's words and seeing the 2 elixirs and the badge that she had given him to ease his mind, his heart was rekindled with hope. Thank you. Thank you. He held Fengjiu's hand and thanked her in a choked voice. This is what I should do. Fengjiu smiled and said, Have a good rest. We'll take our leave first. Once the medicine is prepared, we will come back. As they spoke, Xianyuan Mo's walked in. He looked at his father, who was holding Fengjiu's hand, and instructed the palace servants, "Help the emperor to rest. Don't let him get too excited." "Yes." The palace servants replied respectfully and helped the emperor of Xianyuan into the room. The emperor of the Xianyuan kingdom looked at him and nodded without saying anything else. After the three of them left the bedroom, Fengjiu, who was in the middle, was deep in thought. He said to Xianyuan Mose, "I heard from Huilang that there are many thousand-year-old herbs in the Xianyuan palace's medicine. Take me to see them. If there are suitable herbs, we can make medicine." When Mo Chun heard this, he said to Fengjiu, "Mose, you two to go. I will go back first. Also, if there are any herbs that they don't have here that you need, you can look for me. Who knows, I might be able to help." Xianyuan Mose glanced at him and said, "You should take care of yourself first. I don't think you can take out anything that I don't have here." As he spoke, he held Fengjiu and walked forward. Fengjiu turned around and smiled apologetically at him. When they were far away, he said to Xianyuan Mose, "I feel that your attitude towards him is not very friendly." "Yes, because I think he is too much of an eyesore," he said in a muffled voice. Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. "Why is he an eyesore? I think he is very pleasing to the eye. He is handsome and has an outstanding aura. How is he an eyesore?" Chapter 1749. Hearing this, the corners of Fengjiu's mouth twitched. All right, this vinegar jar was overturned. No matter how he looked at it, it was an eyesore. The two of them chatted as they arrived at the medicine storehouse. When they entered, Xianyuan Mose sat to the side and said to Fengjiu, "The herbs you need should be in here. Take whatever you need. There's a label on each box." "And I understand," Fengjiu responded. His gaze swept across the rows of boxes, sweeping across the names of the herbs. Xianyuan Mose watched her pick the herbs and said, "The herbs that are more than 500 years old are on the left. There are also a dozen thousand-year herbs on the top row." Fengjiu pulled open the boxes and took out the herbs to look. He put away the ones that were suitable. He then made 2 packets of herbs and handed them to Xianyuan Mose. "Before I make the medicine, boil this for your imperial father. Boil 2 bowls of water until it's half full." Xianyuan Mose took a look and asked, "Is it done? And we can go now?" "Then let's go. I've already asked someone to make your favorite dishes. It's getting late, so everything should be ready." He stepped forward and took her hand, leading her away. The guards of the medicine storehouse locked the doors again and stood guard by the door. When they were outside, Xianyuan Mose handed the 2 packets of herbs to Ying Yi and gave him some instructions. Then, he and Fengjiu went to the palace. When they arrived, they saw that someone had already ordered food to be served. "Invite Mo Chun to eat with us." Fengjiu looked at him with a smile. "He's a guest. How can we be rude?" Xianyuan Mose originally wanted to say something, but when he saw her smiling eyes looking at him, he didn't say anything and just sat there. When Lung Hua, who was standing behind Fengjiu, saw this, he smiled and said, "Then I'll invite him." Then he turned around and left. Looking at the table full of her favorite dishes, Fengjiu couldn't help but feel hungry. These days, if she wasn't cultivating, she was on the road, so she rarely had the chance to eat her favorite food. Now that she saw a table full of her favorite foods, she felt extremely warm. "This is spiritual wine. Drink a small cup and taste it." Xianyuan Mose poured her a small cup of spiritual wine and gestured for her to taste. Fengjiu looked at the half-filled wine cup, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "How can you taste anything with so little wine? How about a bigger cup?" Hearing this, he glanced at her. "Aren't you afraid of getting drunk? The after effect of this wine is very strong." Hearing this, she raised her eyebrows. "Strong alcohol? Let me try it." She picked up the wine cup and smelled it. The rich aroma of the wine wafted to her nose, mixed with a strong spiritual aura. Just by smelling the wine, she knew that this was an excellent wine. She took a small sip, and the mellow aroma of the wine spread from the tip of her tongue. The spiritual aura flowed down her throat with the wine and spread throughout her body. With just a small sip, her entire abdomen warmed up. "How is it?" Xianyuan Mose's deep black eyes fell on her face, and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. Looking at her expression, he knew that she was extremely satisfied with the wine. It's very strong. There won't be a burning sensation, but it's different once it enters the stomach, Fengjiu said, and took another sip before putting down the wine cup. Did he say that the after-effect of this wine was very strong? With just 2 small sips, her entire body warmed up. This after-effect was even stronger than the wine in her space. Chapter 1750. Hearing this voice, Fengjiu looked up. "You're here? Come and sit. We were just talking about this spiritual wine." As he spoke, Fengjiu poured a small cup for him. "Try it. This wine is really strong." I only took a small sip, and I felt my whole body warming up. "Oh, then I'll have to try it." Emo-chan sat down beside Fengjiu and took a sip of the wine, then nodded. "Not bad. This should be an aged wine." Xianyuan Mose glanced at him, his gaze falling on his eyes that were still stained with blood. He felt strangely happy and said, "Why didn't you apply medicine to your eyes? The color seems to have darkened quite a bit." Hearing this, Emo-chan looked at him and smiled. "I did, and it was Fengjiu's ointment. It's very cold. I was thinking of applying another layer at night when I rest." As he spoke, he paused and looked at Fengjiu. "The ghost doctor's ointment is very precious. I have to use it sparingly and keep the rest as a souvenir." Seeing the two bickering, Fengjiu smiled embarrassedly and said to them, "Come, come, come, eat quickly before the food gets cold." As he spoke, he put some food in Xianyuan Mose's bowl. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose's expression softened, but he didn't argue with Emo-chan. Instead, he put some food into Fengjiu's bowl. Knowing that she liked to eat salt and pepper prawns, he peeled a few for her. Seeing her greedily signal Lung Shuang to pour more wine, he said to her, "Don't drink too much wine. Eat something to fill your stomach first." Emo-chan watched from the side, a trace of surprise flashing through his calm eyes. That's right. He never thought that the mighty Xianyuan Mose, who had always been in a position of power, who emitted a powerful and domineering aura from head to toe, would be so gentle and considerate towards the woman he loved. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that he would do something as simple as peeling the shrimp. He could not help but feel a little envious when he saw that the two of them did not need to speak much to communicate with each other. The two of them didn't talk much. Fengjiu was in charge of eating, while Xianyuan Mose was in charge of picking vegetables and peeling the shells. That kind of warm and natural happiness overflowed. Even a bystander like him could feel the warmth between the two of them. At this moment, he closed his eyes and slowly ate the food with his chopsticks. What he was thinking was that for a cultivator, life was too long. How lucky was Xianyuan Mose to be able to meet a person who is in love with you for the rest of your life. Emo-chan, I haven't asked you why you're here. Is something the matter? Fengjiu looked at Emo-chan, who was eating, and asked. He had already abstained from eating, so he only tasted the dishes on the table. However, she was different from him. Even though she had already abstained from eating, she still preferred to eat grains and meat. Just like the dishes on the table, the rice was spirit rice, the vegetables were spirit vegetables, and even the meat was spirit birds. Hearing this, Emo-chan looked at them and said, "Yes, there is something." As he spoke, he put down his chopsticks and took a sip of wine. Then, he said unhurriedly, "This time, I'm here to follow you. After you're done with your business here, you should be going to the upper continents, right? I can accompany you." "No need. I'll accompany her when the time comes," Xianyuan Mose said. He glanced at him and knew that this person was here to cause trouble. Chapter 1751. Emo-chan glanced at them and smiled gently. "I'm worried that if I tell you, my other eye will be swollen too." Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. He glanced at Xianyuan Mose, who was glaring coldly at Emo-chan, and smiled at Emo-chan. "That won't happen. Mose isn't an impulsive person." Xianyuan Mose, who was beside her, smiled happily when he heard that. His woman was protecting him. Emo-chan glanced at Xianyuan Mose and said, "All right then, I'll be frank. My master asked me to come down a mountain and follow you. I've told you the reason before." Hearing this, Feng Jiu was slightly startled. She remembered that he had told her before that she was the star of the phoenix. He had also said that the tribulation on him would be born because of her and die because of her. However, she had never believed this and had never taken it to heart. Now that he had said this, she didn't know what to say for a moment. Is there no way to break it? She looked at him and asked. Xian Yuan Mose snorted coldly. Break what tribulation? Was he trying to rely on his woman? The only way to break it is for me to stay by your side. It's unavoidable. He spoke casually, as if he didn't care about this tribulation. Feng Jiu fell silent. After a long while, he said, If that's the case, then you can stay. Since they were acquaintances, she naturally didn't want him to die because of her. However, she felt that it would be better if he didn't stay by her side. If he stayed by her side, this tribulation might really. Xian Yuan Mose didn't say anything. He only focused on eating. In his mind, he thought that his punch was too light. For the next 2 days, Ing Yi personally brewed medicine for the monarch to drink, while Feng Jiu went into seclusion, wholeheartedly refining pills and medicines. He wanted to help Xian Yuan Mose's father recover as soon as possible. Perhaps it was due to the demise of the monarch of Qishui province and the submission of the Dong Yao Empire that the entire Xian Yuan Empire had calmed down. Those forces that were ready to make a move didn't dare to show their faces after seeing the situation. In the following month, the Luoyue Empire was also annihilated. A large empire was directly annexed by East Yao, and the remaining empire was not spared either. By the time the people from the upper continents found out about the 8 great empires, it was already too late. They sent out people, and when they found out that the ghost Dr. Feng Jiu had appeared again, they quickly reported the news. Murong Yixian, who also received the news, rushed to the residence and told the news to Feng Sanyuan. What? Did Feng girl really kill the Qishui Empire's monarch? She even subdued the Dong Yao Empire and annexed the other 2 empires? Feng Sanyuan asked in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. No matter which one of the 8 great empires it was, they weren't to be trifled with. Wasn't she a peak nascent soul cultivator? Even if she advanced, she should only be a fairy realm expert. With the strength of a fairy realm expert, how could she do all this? Could it be that someone helped her? It's true. I also just received the news. Murong Yixian sighed in his heart. No matter where she was, her radiance was so dazzling that it made people feel inferior. Then she's going to the 8 great empires now. Feng Sanyuan asked. His voice paused, and he asked again, Is she in the Xian Yuan Empire? Where's Xian Yuan Mose? Chapter 1752. She's in Xian Yuan Palace now. If we go now, we might be able to meet her. If we go later, I think she'll come to the upper continent. Murong Yixian said warmly. He thought of Feng Jiu and her personality. He didn't need to ask to know that the upper continent's forces had destroyed the Phoenix dynasty that she had built up. This matter definitely wouldn't be settled just like that. Then what are we waiting for? I'll pack up immediately and bring sushi back. He rushed inside while shouting, Sushi! Sushi! Pack up quickly, we'll go back immediately. They had been here for so long. Although Murong Yixian had sent someone to send a message over, he didn't know if they had received it. It was better for them to go back and take a look. Moreover, their son was still there. The child was still so young. He wouldn't be at ease if they weren't by his side. Sushi heard the voice and looked over. Seeing Murong Yixian there, she nodded at him. Young Master Murong is here. She had just finished speaking when she was pulled into the room by Feng Sanyuan. Yishuan said that Feng girl is now in Xian Yuan Empire. Let's hurry back in case we can't meet her again. Hearing this, Sushi smiled. All right, then we'll set off immediately. They didn't have many things, so they could just pack up and leave. Thinking that her son was still there, she became excited when she heard that they were going back. She guessed that she hadn't seen her son for a long time. The child was still growing, so he should have grown a lot, right? Murong Yixian watched them go into the room and came out after a while. He walked up. Grandpa Feng, I'll send you back. After not seeing her for so long, he also wanted to see how she was doing. This, Feng Sanyuan hesitated and asked, "Is this appropriate? Will it delay your matters?" "No." He smiled warmly in response. "Then I'll have to trouble you." Feng Sanyuan sighed in his heart. He knew that he wanted to go back and see Feng Girl. However, the past was the past. Even if he saw her, what could he do? Therefore, Murong Yixin took the bodyguard in black with him and boarded the flying ship together with them, heading towards the Xinyuan Empire downstream. On the other side, other than Fengjiu handing out some medicine for half a month, she had been in seclusion for an entire month and did not come out. During this period of time, Guanxilin had returned with the Phoenix Guards. At the same time, the Emperor of Eastern Glory Empire had also arrived at the Xinyuan Empire. Another half a month passed. On this day, 3 heavenly thunders rumbled in the sky. The people guarding outside the alchemy room saw that after the 3 heavenly thunders fell, the entire palace was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. "It should be done," Guanxilin said with a smile on his resolute face. "I knew that there's nothing the ghost doctor can't do," Hui Lang said with a grin, feeling a little excited. This was a pill that could restore the Dantian. Needless to say, just this ability alone was enough to shock the world. In the cultivation world, a destroyed Dantian was equivalent to being crippled. Many cultivators who had their Dantian destroyed were like cripples. Now that there was this pill, as long as the news of this pill that could restore Dantian spread, the entire cultivation world would be shaken. Chapter 1753. Xinyuan Mose waited quietly, listening to the conversations of the people around him. His gaze was fixed in front of him. After a while, he saw a red figure walking out from inside. Only then did he walk up to her. "You've been in seclusion refining pills for so long. Is your body all right?" he asked softly, looking at her tired face. "I'm fine. Look." She shook the bottle in her hand, revealing a joyful smile. "Look, I've refined it. There's hope for your father to recover his Dantian." Hearing this, Xinyuan Mose didn't know what to say for a moment. He only felt his heart fill with bitterness. He knew that if that person wasn't his father, she wouldn't have locked herself in the pill refining room for almost 2 months just to refine this pill. Thousands of words turned into a sigh. He reached out and hugged her. "Go and rest first. I'll accompany you later." "All right." Fengjiu smiled in response, looking at Guanxilin. "Brother, you're back." "We're back. Everything's done. Don't worry about anything." Guanxilin smiled. "That's good. Is everyone all right?" she asked. "Yes, everyone's fine. Not a single person is missing." Luo Yu answered from the side. Hearing this, she nodded. "I won't talk much with you today. Tomorrow, let's celebrate tomorrow." "All right." Guanxilin smiled in response, saying, "Then go and rest." Saying this, everyone retreated, making a path for them. Seeing Xinyuan Mose leave with her in his arms, they gathered together again to chat. "Master is amazing. He even refined this pill. Do you think he'll be able to refine a pill that can bring the dead back to life in the future?" Luo Yu said with a smile, his tone full of yearning. Beside him, Fan Lin heard this and said, "That shouldn't be possible. How can a pill that can bring the dead back to life be so easy to refine?" "In this world, the impossible can sometimes become possible," said Mo Chun. She glanced at the crowd, smiled, and then turned to leave. Everyone was deep in thought as they listened to his words. Then, they heard Guanxilin's voice. "All right, let's go. I'll treat everyone to a drink." He patted them on their shoulders and led them away. The monarch of Dong, Yao Empire, stood there awkwardly. He paused for a moment before following them. He was originally planning to return to the Dong, Yao Empire, but Guanxilin dragged him here. His identity was a little awkward here, and he could only hope that he could explain things to Fengjiu in a couple of days before returning to Dong Yao. On the other side, Xinyuan Mose, who had brought Fengjiu back to the palace, sat outside the room and waited. In the room, Fengjiu took a bath and changed into a red dress. After drying her hair, she walked out and sat down at the table. "Has anything happened recently? Are there any other forces in the upper reaches taking action? They sent some people over, but we took care of them." After a few batches of people, They quieted down and didn't take action again. Xinyuan Mose took the hairband she handed over and gently tied up her silky hair behind her back, leaving only 2 strands to fall on her cheeks. It added a charming and enchanting look to her already beautiful face. Chapter 1754. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled. That's because you have to keep watch here. Otherwise, with your strength at the peak of Sage Immortal, how could you not be able to handle it? She was only able to see the level of his strength after advancing to Sage Immortal. She had the help of pills, and she also had a profound spirit body, which was why her cultivation was so fast. On the other hand, he cultivated solidly. Hearing her say that she was at the peak of Sage Immortal, Xinyuan Mose looked deeply at her. It's not easy for you to reach Sage Immortal in half a year. With this kind of strength, she was only 1 step away from advancing. To go upstream, this kind of strength is not enough. As she spoke, she thought of her grandfather and the others who were killed by the forces of the upper continents, and she couldn't help but clench her fists. She wouldn't let this go. She would definitely make them pay a painful price. Wait until my father's body recovers, then I'll go with you. He held her hand and said. Feng Jiu didn't say anything and only leaned into his embrace. No one knew what she was thinking. At the same time, outside the Xianyuan Palace, a flying ship slowly descended. After the ship stopped, Feng Sanyuan and Su Shi walked out of the ship and arrived at the palace gates. Murong Yixian also walked out from behind, followed by the black-clothed man, who stood next to Feng Sanyuan. Who is it? The palace guard guarding the palace gates shouted in a deep voice. Go and report that I'm Feng Sanyuan. Knowing that these people didn't recognize him, Feng Sanyuan wasn't angry and only looked at the guard in front of him and said. Hearing that it was someone with the surname Feng, the guard was startled and hurriedly ran inside. When he got inside, he just happened to meet Hui Lang, who was about to go find Guan Shilin and the others, and called out to him. Guard Captain. Hui Lang hummed a little tune and wanted to find Guan Shilin and the others to drink a few cups, but who knew that a guard would block his way. He immediately asked in displeasure, What are you doing? Have you grown bold? You dare block my way? No. Guard Captain, there are a few people outside, and one of them said he's called Feng Sanyuan. Please report to His Highness the Crown Prince and see if he wants to see him. The guard hurriedly said, who knew that just as he finished speaking, Hui Lang's eyes widened in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. What did you say? Feng Sanyuan? He's really Feng Sanyuan? Did you hear wrong? How is this possible? Didn't the ghost doctor's grandfather and the others? You didn't hear wrongly. That's what that person said. They're waiting outside the palace. Before he could finish his sentence, he saw a gray wolf dashing out of the palace, leaving him dumbfounded. Yes, fine is ye. Sushi Feng Sin and the others, Feng Sanyuan Sanyuan was Yi Sins to the Sanyuan, to them, to the STO, see them to say, to Sanyuan Shield. SN to see, child, don't worry, it's fine. We can all live well, and you must still be alive. Feng Sanyuan patted her hand and said. Murong Yishuan, who was standing behind them, heard this and his eyes flashed slightly, but he didn't say anything. Old Master Feng, is it really you? Am I seeing things? Hui Lang quickly rushed over, and when he saw Feng Sanyuan, who looked like a man in his 20s or 30s, his eyes widened. Chapter 1755. Yes, it's us. Feng Girl is here, right? Feng Xiao and little Feng Yi are here too? Feng Sanyuan asked. That's great. It's great that you're still alive. The ghost doctor always thought that you were burned to death in the fire. If she knew that you were still alive, she would definitely be very happy. Hui Lang said excitedly. He looked to the side and couldn't help but widen his eyes as he exclaimed, Moo Moo, Murong Yixian. Compared to Hui Lang's shock, Murong Yixian only nodded faintly. Can you bring us in now? Hui Lang, is Yi still safe? Sushi asked somewhat anxiously. Her heart was always worried about her son. Hearing this, Hui Lang didn't know how to answer her for a moment. He only smiled embarrassedly. Actually, I'm not very clear about this either. You guys go in first. When you see the ghost doctor, she will naturally tell you." As he spoke, he hurriedly brought them inside and let them rest in the palace. He then hurried to the back of the palace to find his master and the ghost doctor. Oh no, oh no! He rushed into the palace and saw the two people sitting next to each other. Instead of retreating as usual, he directly rushed forward. Even Ingyi, who was guarding outside, couldn't help but follow him. "What's wrong?" Xianyuan Mose asked in a low voice. His deep gaze swept towards Hui Lang at the same time. "They're here. Ghost Doctor, your grandfather, and the others are here." Hearing this, Fengjiu stood up with a whoosh. "What did you say?" Her body trembled slightly as she forcefully suppressed the shock in her heart. "It's true. Your grandfather Feng Sanyuan and that Su Shi are both alive. They're in the main hall right now." Before she finished speaking, the red figure swept out like lightning. Xianyuan Mose's eyes also moved slightly as he looked towards Hui Lang. "They're still alive? Are you sure?" No, it's definitely not wrong." As Hui Lang spoke, he seemed to have thought of something. He stole a glance at his master and hesitated, wondering if he should tell him that Murong Yixian had also come. "If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you hemming and hawing?" Xianyuan Mose glanced at him and walked out. "Yes," Hui Lang responded. He thought for a while and said, "Master, that Murong Yixian is also here." He came with old Master Feng and the others. When he finished speaking, he saw his master stop and turn around. "Are you talking about Murong Yixian?" Xianyuan Mose looked at him and asked with a thoughtful expression. Hui Lang nodded. "Yes, that's him." Hearing that, Xianyuan Mose turned around and strode forward. He thought to himself, "I haven't heard from Murong Yixian for so long. Why did he suddenly appear?" And with old Master Feng and the others? In front of the main hall, Feng Jiu rushed in like the wind. "Grandfather!" She threw herself forward and hugged Feng Sanyuan tightly. "Grandfather, it's really you. It's really you. I thought I'd never see you again." Her eyes were slightly red. She thought she had lost her family, but now they had appeared in front of her again. This kind of excitement couldn't be expressed with words. Feng Sanyuan patted her head gently, his voice filled with emotion. "Grandfather also thought I'd never see you again." Chapter 1756. Xiaojiu, where's Yi? Are Yi and Yang okay? Su Shi asked worriedly. It was no wonder that she was so worried about her child. That child was only about 3 years old. Such a small child was protected by Yang, who was only 7 or 8 years old. How could she be at ease? And after so long, she didn't know how the child was doing. The more anxious she was, the more uneasy she felt. It would be fine if Yi and Yang were safe. But if something happened to both children, she didn't know if she could bear the blow. Hearing this, Fengjiu's heart clenched. She took a step back and supported Su Shi. Seeing the worry and uneasiness on her face, she couldn't help but hesitate. Her hand was supporting Su Shi's, and she naturally felt that Su Shi's body wasn't as good as before. Thinking about it, she probably hadn't fully recovered from her injuries in the fire. After not seeing her for so long, Su Shi's face was pale and thin. There were even dark circles under her eyes. It was obvious that she was worried and couldn't sleep well. If she were to tell her that both children died in the mouths of ferocious beasts, how would she be able to bear such a blow? If she fell ill from excessive worry, would she didn't dare to think further. After all, as a doctor, she knew very well that sometimes mental illness could only be cured by mental medicine. No matter how good her medical skills were, if a person didn't want to live, then she was helpless. Xiaojiu, tell me, where's Yi? Yi and Yang, how are they? Are they still alive? Seeing Fengjiu's silent expression, Su Shi's tears fell uncontrollably. Her heart trembled. She didn't dare to imagine and was afraid to know. But how are her children? Even if the truth was hurtful, she had to know. Fengjiu secretly made a decision in her heart when she saw her crying so hard that her face turned pale and she looked as if she was about to collapse. "Grandmother, why are you crying?" "Don't cry. Little Feng Yi and Yang are fine. They're fine." She softened her voice and tried her best to hide the sorrow in her heart. Hearing this, Sushi was stunned. She looked up at her with teary eyes. Really? Are they all alive and well? You're not lying to me? Her hands clutched her hands, afraid that this was just a white lie. Really? Why would I lie to you? She smiled and wiped away the tears on her face. Sit down first. I'll tell you slowly. She helped her sit down and then turned to look at her grandfather. Grandfather, have a seat. The moment his voice fell, he looked at Murong Ishian at the side and couldn't help but be slightly surprised. It's you. It's me. Murong Ishian nodded slightly. A pair of gentle eyes fell on her. His eyes were deep, and she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Outside, after hearing Feng Jiu's words, Xian Yuan Mo's informed Hui Lang behind him and signaled to Leng Hua and Leng Shuang who were waiting at the side. Then he walked inside. Sis, I'll go out for a while. Leng Hua said to Leng Shuang in a low voice and left with Hui Lang. Leng Shuang glanced at them and looked away. He quietly stood outside and looked inside, listening to their conversation. Chapter 1757. Mose, you're here. Sit. Feng Sanyuan gestured for him to sit. However, ever since he heard Feng Girl's words, his heart had been in his throat. Sushi might not be able to see it, but he could. When Sushi asked Feng Girl if he was still alive, her expression changed for a moment. Did his child really meet with a mishap? Such a small child. He was only 3 years old. When he thought of this, his eyes turned red. The grief in his heart was unbearable, but he still tried his best to suppress it. Because after hearing Feng Girl's words, Sushi, who had been worried the entire way, finally let out a sigh of relief. He knew that she had been tense all this time, keeping herself as tight as a string. If she really knew that her child had died, he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to live on. Xiao Jia, where's your father? Is he with him? Because she didn't see Feng Xiao, Sushi thought that the child was with Feng Xiao and the others. Feng Jiu held her hand and said, Grandmother, don't worry. Drink some tea to calm your mind. Your injuries haven't fully healed yet, so you can't be too agitated. She sat down at the side and glanced at her grandfather with a smile. Grandfather, grandmother, Yer, and Yang Yang are with my father. They had other encounters. Hearing this, Xian Yuan Mo sat and sipped his tea without looking up. Murong Yishuan's eyes flashed, but his expression remained the same. Old Master Feng nodded and didn't speak. Only Sushi was startled and asked, What encounter? If they weren't with your father, then who were they with? At that time, they walked out of the secret passage and arrived at a safe place. However, the two children were still young, and the phone guards didn't know of the existence of the secret passage. When we returned, it had already been some time. Feng Jiu's voice paused. She looked at the nervous Sushi and said, They experienced some things outside. They were captured and taken to the slave market. Later, they escaped. In order to avoid those people, they entered a small forest. And then? Forest? Where was the forest? Are there any ferocious beasts? Sushi's heart was in her throat. Her face turned pale when she thought of the two children going into the forest alone. Although Yang Yang had undergone training, she was only a child of 7 or 8 years old. If she encountered a ferocious beast, how could she withstand it? As Feng Sanyuan listened, his hands secretly clenched into fists. He could imagine how dangerous the situation was. The two children should be there. Feng Jiu glanced at her and nodded. Yes, they encountered a ferocious beast inside and were attacked by it. Once these words came out, Sushi's entire body softened. Feng Sanyuan quickly went forward to support her and comforted her. Don't worry. Didn't Feng Girl say it already? They're fine. They're fine. They're fine. They were attacked by ferocious beasts and were injured. At that time, we were following the clues to find them, but we were still one step behind. When we arrived, the two of them were saved by an old Taoist. Feng Jiu narrowed his eyes when he said this. Chapter 1758. However, after she sent people to search for them, there was still no news. then it was very likely that they had been eaten by a beast. There was also a very small possibility that they had been saved by some strong cultivator. Otherwise, it was impossible for there to be no news. However, she also knew that this possibility was 1 in 10,000. It was extremely small. However, at this moment, she could only weave a lie to tell them. Saved by an old Taoist? Sushi looked at Fengjiu in a daze. Then what happened? Fengjiu raised his head to look at her and said, "At that time, we just happened to arrive." However, that old Taoist said that the 2 children were fated with him and wanted to take them away as his disciples. I didn't agree at first, but that old Taoist said that if he hadn't saved them, the 2 children would have already died. Therefore, he had to take them away. He only said that when the 2 children had finished their studies, he would let them return home. At this moment, Fengjiu felt that there was no flaw in the lie she had woven. If she didn't know what was going on, she might have believed it too. At this moment, she would never have thought that the white lie she had woven for them would be so close to the truth. When she saw the 2 children again in the future, even she felt that everything was inconceivable. "So, it's like this?" Sushi muttered in response and revealed a relieved smile. As long as they're fine, as long as they're alive, her mood had been up and down. In addition, she had been anxious and uneasy these days. Now that she could relax, she fainted. "Sushi, Sushi," Feng Sanyuan called out worriedly. "Grandfather, don't worry. Grandmother's body can't bear the fatigue. Let her rest for a while, and she will recover," Fengjiu said softly and called out to the outside. "Lung Shuang, quickly bring grandfather and grandmother to rest." "Yes." Lung Shuang responded and came in to help support Su Shi. Feng Sanyuan looked at Fengjiu and sighed. "Grandfather has something to ask you later." Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and he nodded. "Okay." After they left, Fengjiu sat down and couldn't help but exhale softly. The joy and excitement of seeing his grandfather and the others return safely was diluted when he thought of little Feng Yi and Yang Yang. He felt a little sad and helpless. "Were you the one who saved my grandfather and the others?" Fengjiu looked at Murong Yishuan and asked. Hearing this, Murong Yixian, who was drinking tea, smiled faintly and looked up at her. "How did you know?" Old Master Feng and the others didn't have time to tell her. Moreover, judging from their expressions, they probably didn't receive the news he sent some time ago. At that time, the palace that was burned down was the palace that you went to. Now, you are here again. Furthermore, my grandfather and the others have returned safely. If it wasn't you who saved them, who else could it be? It was just a coincidence. Murong Yixian looked at her dazzling red clothes and said, "At that time, I just wanted to go back and take a look. I didn't expect to encounter this. However, my abilities were limited and I could only save them secretly." Fengjiu stood up and walked in front of him. "No matter what, I have to thank you for saving them." She bowed to him. "Thank you. If there is anything you need my help with in the future, as long as I can do it, I will not refuse." Chapter 1759. Murong Yixian glanced at Xianyuan Mose, then smiled at Fengjiu. He nodded and replied, "All right. If I need your help in the future, I'll look for you." "Where is Master Murong now?" Xianyuan Mose asked, his deep black eyes falling on him. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze also fell on Murong Yixian. "There's been no news of you these past few years. Where have you been?" Seeing that his strength and cultivation had increased by a lot, it seemed that after he left, he had also had a fortuitous encounter. "I'm now in a sect in the upper continent." He smiled and said slowly, "After I met my master by accident, I left with him. These past few years, I've been in the upper continent and rarely come here." After chatting with him for a while, Fengjiu said to him, "You must be tired from the journey. I'll have someone take you to rest." "All right," he replied and stood up. Fengjiu looked outside and saw Lung Hua standing outside the door. He called out, "Lung Hua, take Master Murong to the back hall to rest." "Yes," Lung Hua replied and walked in. He gestured to Murong Yixian. "Master Murong, please." After Murong Yixian left, Feng looked at Xin Yuan Mose. I have to tell Luo Yu and the others so that grandfather and grandmother don't know the truth. Xin Yuan Mose took her hand and sat down beside her, saying, I've already asked Hui Lang and Lung Hua to tell them. However, paper can't wrap fire. How long do you plan to hide it from them? Feng Jiu was silent for a long time, then said, I'm worried that if I tell them, they won't be able to take it. I also know that I can't hide it for long, but now really isn't the best time to tell them. Then take it slow. He held her hand tightly. Don't blame yourself too much. This isn't your fault. Feng Jiu sighed softly. Originally, I was very happy to see grandfather and the others come back alive. However, when I think of little Feng Yi, I feel upset. Xin Yuan Mose didn't say anything and quietly accompanied her. After a while, he accompanied her to the Phoenix Guards to explain the situation to them. He wanted to get some information so that they wouldn't notice if something went wrong when they asked. After explaining, he remembered what her grandfather had said earlier. Feng Jiu couldn't help but stop and looked at Xin Yuan Mose beside him. Grandfather said that he had something to ask me. Do you think, could it be, it doesn't matter. If he asks, you tell him the truth. Said Mose. He should be able to bear it. Don, I don't think that this matter can at him. Is? You mean that he's noticed? Xin Yuan Mose nodded. He should have his suspicions. When you were talking earlier, your attention was all on your grandmother, so you didn't notice the change in your grandfather's expression. I'm guessing that he should have guessed something. Hearing this, Feng Jiu fell silent. It turned out that her grandfather had already guessed it. I'll go with you. He hugged her and walked to the back of the hall. When they arrived at the back of the hall, they saw Feng Sanyuan standing with his hands behind his back, looking at the sky with a sorrowful expression. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other, and Feng Jiu called out, Grandfather! Feng Sanyuan came back to his senses and looked at the two of them. You're here? Sit. He gestured for them to sit. Chapter 1760. Feng Sanyuan glanced at the room behind him, took a deep breath, and said, Sushi hasn't woken up yet. Little Feng, tell Grandpa honestly what happened to Feng Yi. Hearing this, Feng Jiu was silent for a moment. She looked at her grandfather in front of her for a long time, then said, Grandpa, what I said before was true, but I made up the part about them being in danger. She looked at him sitting at the table. After hearing her words, his body trembled slightly, as if he was trying his best to suppress it. She said, Grandpa, although we didn't see Feng Yi in Yangyang when we arrived, it doesn't mean that they were in danger. It's very possible that they were really saved. You don't need to say any more. I know. He waved his hand, unable to bear to listen to her anymore. Grandpa, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. She lowered her head, feeling very guilty. Perhaps if it weren't for her, they wouldn't have encountered this kind of life and death separation. No, Grandpa knows it's not your fault. He sighed. This is all fate. Perhaps this child is just not fated to be with us. Thinking back to when she was just born, she also went through a near-death experience. Who would have thought that after only 3 years, she would encounter this kind of thing again? Feng Sanyuan stood up, unable to hide his sorrow as he walked back. Hide this from your grandmother. If you tell her, she definitely won't be able to bear it. Feng Jiu looked up and only withdrew her gaze when he entered the room. She didn't know what to say. I'll walk with you. Knowing that she was in low spirits, Xin Yuan Mose took her hand and led her out. On the other side of the palace, Missouri Chun couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that Feng Jiu's grandpa and grandmother had returned safely. The two of them were actually still alive? His master had said that she would experience the tribulation of being separated by life and death. She would experience the pain of having her family destroyed. She would lose everything and be left alone. However, although what she had experienced during this period of time was as his master had said, he faintly felt that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Although Master said that she had already passed the tribulation, it was one thing if old Master Feng and the others hadn't returned safely, but now that they had returned safely, he felt that perhaps this tribulation had other mysteries. Thinking of this, a serious expression appeared on his face. It wasn't that he doubted his master's purple star divination, but based on his intuition, he felt that things weren't that simple. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a black turtle shell from his space ring and put a few copper coins inside. Holding the shell, in his hand, a trace of hesitation. But Master had told him that divination and the star divination was originally from the same family. But Master had told him that divination and the star divination were from the same family. To prying into the heavens, TTT, was also prying into the mysteries of the heavens and the star TTTT. Because once it was shown to others, there would definitely be many people who would come to ask for divination. And if the divination continued for a long time, it would only harm the diviner. Therefore, Master had told him that he couldn't use it before the age of 30. Although he was already very familiar with divination, he had always obeyed his master's orders and didn't divine himself. But now he had an impulse to investigate. Chapter 1761. However, at this moment, his fairy-like face gradually turned pale. Large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and his breathing became unstable. He forced himself to hold on until he stretched out a hand and poured out a few copper coins from the black tortoise shell. When they landed on the table, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body trembled violently, and he almost fell over. He supported himself on the table with both hands and stabilized himself. When he saw the copper coins stained with blood on the table, he couldn't help but tremble. His eyes widened in disbelief when the sky darkened. Lung Shuang and Lung Hua invited everyone to the main hall in front. Tonight, because of the arrival of old Master Feng and the others, Xinyuan Mose set up a banquet and invited everyone to join the fun. Su Shi, who had fainted, woke up after taking a pill. Her body gradually recovered. In addition, Feng Jiu assured her that Xiao Yi, and the others were safe and sound. She no longer had any worries and relaxed. Her body and mind were in good spirits. This was Feng Sunyuan's first time here. Especially after hearing about Xinyuan Mose's father, he wanted to take this opportunity to express his condolences. Therefore, the emperor of Xinyuan Kingdom, who hadn't appeared in public for a long time, would also appear at tonight's banquet. When Guan Shilin and the others found out that old Master Feng and the others had returned safely, they were filled with joy. Because of Feng Jiu's instructions, they didn't mention anything about Xiao Feng Yi. What surprised Guan Shilin was that he actually saw Murong Yixin again here. Speaking of which, it was really a strange feeling to see Murong Yixin again after so many years. When Feng Jiu saw that almost everyone had arrived except for the emperor of Xinyuan Kingdom, he scanned the surroundings and didn't see Mo Chun. He then asked Xinyuan Mose, "Where's Mo Chun? Have you seen him?" Lung Hua went to invite him. "He probably hasn't arrived yet." As Xinyuan Mose spoke, he looked at the people seated below. Other than Murong Yixin, there was also Mo Chun. Although they had all hidden their thoughts, he knew that it was impossible for them not to remember how outstanding Feng Jiu was. Especially since Mo Chun had specially come and intended to stay by Feng Jiu's side and not leave. Every time he thought of this, his heart would ache. His woman was too outstanding. She was too eye-catching. "Master, I'll go take a look again." As Lung Hua was about to leave, he saw a white figure walk in. He said to Feng Jiu, "Master, Mo Chun is here." Feng Jiu looked outside and saw that the white-robed Mo Chun's face was somewhat pale. He couldn't help but be startled and thought to himself, "Why does he look so pale? Could it be that he's not feeling well?" Murong Yixin, who was seated below, followed Feng Jiu's gaze. His gaze fell on Mo Chun, and he quietly sized him up. This person was Elder Tianji's disciple. "Mo Chun, I'm sorry for being late." Mo Chun walked in front of Xinyuan Mose and Feng Jiu. He nodded slightly and smiled apologetically. "It's okay," Feng Jiu said. He looked at Mo Chun's pale face and asked, "Are you not feeling well? Why do you look so pale?" Hearing this, Mo Chun smiled and shook his head. "I'm fine." As he spoke, he turned his gaze and looked at Murong Yixin and Feng Sanyuan. Chapter 1762. Mo Chun greets Senior Feng and Madam Feng. Mo Chun cupped his hands and bowed to the two of them. Young Master Mo Chun, there's no need to be so courteous. Feng Sanyuan hurriedly stood up to support him. My granddaughter has been taken care of by you, my friends. Friends should help each other. Mo Chun smiled and looked at Murong Yixian. Young Master Murong, it's an honor to meet you. I didn't expect to see young Master Mo Chun here today. It's true that seeing you in person is better than hearing about you. You really are like an immortal. Murong Yixian also stood up and cupped his hands in greeting. Hearing this, Mo Chun smiled. Young Master Murong, you flatter me. The monarch has arrived. A guard announced. Everyone turned to look and saw the monarch of Xianyuan, who was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a slightly aged appearance, walking out with the support of two guards. Everyone stood up and bowed to him. Greetings, monarch of Xianyuan. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Sit, sit. The monarch of Xianyuan gestured for everyone to sit. Only then did he sit down in the main seat and look at Feng Sanyuan and his wife. These two must be Xiao Jio's grandparents. Seeing how young the two of them were, he could not help but sigh in his heart. Feng Sanyuan was already close to 100 years old, but because of his strength and cultivation, he still had a youthful appearance. If his cultivation had not been crippled, he would not have such an old appearance. That's right. Feng Sanyuan nodded. He looked at him and asked with concern, Monarch, are you feeling better? Much better. Fortunately, Xiao Jio is here. Otherwise, he shook his head and smiled. He looked at Feng Jio with gratitude. If it weren't for her, he would be a dead man now. How would he have the chance to reconstruct his inner core and return to the path of cultivation? Monarch, don't worry. Xiao Jio's medical skills and alchemy are top-notch. With her here, you will recover to how you were before. Feng Sanyuan comforted him. Although they had experienced life and death, they had not been crippled like the monarch. If their cultivation had been crippled, with their age, they would not have been able to hold on until little Feng came to save them. Yes, I know. I believe her. The Emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom smiled and nodded. He looked at the crowd and said, Tonight, we celebrate the safe return of old Master Feng and his wife. Let's eat and drink to our heart's content. There's no need to care about etiquette. Thus, he instructed the maidservants to pour wine for everyone. As everyone toasted each other, the atmosphere suddenly became lively. The Xianyuan monarch did not stay for long because of his health. He only accompanied everyone to drink a few cups of wine before leaving first. This was because Feng Jio and Xianyuan Mose had already given him the pill to restore his inner core. He would rest well tonight. He would take the pill tomorrow and go into seclusion to adjust his breathing. That night, everyone drank to their heart's content. Only the old Master Feng found it difficult to be cheerful. After all, every time he thought about his youngest son, Feng Yi, and Yang Yang, his heart was filled with grief. However, to prevent Su Shi from worrying, he could only bury this grief deep in his heart. That night, he drank until he was dead drunk. Chapter 1763. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, it can't be avoided. Let nature take its course. The next day, when Feng Jio woke up, Xianyuan Mose was no longer by her side. After thinking for a bit, she remembered that he seemed to have said last night that he was going to protect his imperial father. She rubbed her eyebrows and called out, Long Shuang. The Long Shuang outside heard and walked in, Master, prepare water for me to take a bath. She got up and stretched her body. She wanted to take a bath to clear her head and wash away the smell of alcohol on her body. When she came back last night, she immediately fell asleep. After sniffing carefully, there was still the smell of alcohol on her body. Yes, the Long Shuang responded and turned to go out to prepare. After an hour, Feng Jio walked out of the palace. When she passed by the fake mountain, she saw Murong Yixian sitting in the pavilion. Her footsteps paused, walked up, and casually sat down at the table. Are you used to living here? Murong Yixian looked at her, sitting across the table. Seeing her picturesque appearance, The confidence and evil charm emitted from between her brows was so enchanting. His heart was slightly moved, and he looked away. I've always been a light sleeper. Whether I'm used to it or not, I can't sleep deeply. Seeing Fengjiu sit here, the Long Shuang behind her ordered the passing servant girls to bring tea and pastries. Looking at your appearance, you should be doing well these past few years, Fengjiu said as she lifted the teapot and poured 2 cups of tea. Hearing this, Murong Yixin looked at her and asked, "What about you? Have you been well these past few years? Isn't it still the same? There's always trouble wherever I go." Fengjiu laughed at herself. As long as it's a place where I'm at, there's always a lot of trouble. Trouble is also a kind of experience. It just depends on how you look at it, Murong Yixin said slowly. Looking at her, his eyes flashed. "There's something you might not know." "Oh, what's the matter?" Fengjiu took a sip of tea and asked. "The news of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets testing the Phoenix star has already spread. Even some of the sects and factions of the upper continents have begun to secretly move. Some want to eliminate you, some want to protect you, and some want to watch from the sidelines." He looked at her as she spoke. When he saw that she had lowered her gaze and her expression was normal, he couldn't help but smile. "It seems that you're not worried." When Fengjiu heard this, he raised his eyebrows and looked at him with a faint smile. "You knew that Feng Xing was talking about me? In the entire world, I think you're the only one," he said slowly and looked at her deeply. "Moreover, didn't you say the same thing to me back then? Connecting the dots, it's not hard to guess that it was you." After he mentioned it, Fengjiu recalled the words she had said to him back then and couldn't help but smile. There are so many outstanding people in this world. Perhaps the Phoenix Star is someone else. At the very least, I don't really believe in this. Because even if she wanted to become strong, she didn't have the ambition to rule the world. Murong Yixin's deep eyes fell on her beautiful and enchanting face. In an instant, he couldn't help but say, "There are so many outstanding people in this world, but none of them can compare to you." When he spoke, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. He shook his head and looked at the slightly startled her. "I'm speaking the truth. In my heart, no one can compare to you." Chapter 1764. Murong Yixin was slightly stunned. Then he laughed out loud. "I know. I'll be more careful in the future." His eyes were filled with amusement as he looked at her and asked, "Are you two still not going to get married?" He felt a little strange. The two of them had known each other for several years, so why hadn't Xianyuan Mose married her yet? His sweetheart was so outstanding. Wasn't he afraid that someone would remember her? "We were originally prepared, but too many things have happened in the past year, and we were caught off guard, so this matter has been delayed." She narrowed her eyes and smiled. "However, in our opinion, marriage is just a ceremony, so there's no need to rush." The two of them chatted in the pavilion for a while. Fengjiu saw that it was getting late, so she stood up. "I still have matters to attend to, so I won't chat anymore. If you feel bored, you can have someone take you around the palace. Go do your things." Murong Yixin nodded and watched her turn to leave. After a long while, he retracted his gaze and tasted his tea. Fengjiu originally planned to go to the palace to see the emperor of Xianyuan Kingdom, but halfway there, she saw Xianyuan Mose walking back. Seeing him, she walked up to him in surprise. "Why are you here?" "There's no need to go over. He's already gone into seclusion." As Xianyuan Mose spoke, he held her hand and walked forward. "I'm guarding him, and he's already taken a pill. Now, we just have to wait for him to come out of seclusion. I originally wanted to go over and take a look, but since he's gone into seclusion, then forget it." She held his hand instead, and the two of them walked slowly. Behind them, Long Shuang and Yingyi followed. "I was thinking of having the Phoenix Guard send grandfather and the others back in 2 days. With my father and the others by his side, I could be more at ease," she said softly, thinking about what to do next. "You don't plan to take the Phoenix Guards to the upper continent?" Xianyuan Mose asked. "I don't want them to go over at the moment." She shook her head and said, "Although their strength has increased, I'm afraid they're still too weak to the people of the upper continents. I want them to stay and listen to my grandfather and father's orders." The Phoenix Guards can stay, but you can bring along the 8 Phoenix Guard captains. He looked at her and said, with their strength, they will be of some help to you. All right, I'll think about it, she replied. She was still unsure whether she should bring Luo Yu and the others along. Xinyuan Mo's paused for a moment, a dim light flashing across his eyes as he said, "You don't have to bring that emotion along. I feel that bringing him along will only bring trouble to yourself. He's too conspicuous. Furthermore, with his status, if he follows you around, there will definitely be people trying to find out who you are." Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled for a moment. She raised her eyes to look at him beside her. When she saw him saying these words with such a serious expression, she couldn't help but chuckle. "You're right. He's indeed too conspicuous. If he follows me around, he'll definitely cause trouble. However, I've already promised him. Tell me, what should I do now?" Xinyuan Mo's snorted softly. "Just find a reason to leave him behind. Is that okay?" Fengjiu felt that this didn't seem too good. After all, he came from afar. If she did this, wouldn't it be too rude? Chapter 1765. "But, can you let go of the things here?" She looked at him and asked. No matter how big the empire was, his father would not be able to recover his previous cultivation in a short time. Now, could he really leave? The overall situation has been decided. There is nothing to worry about, and there is nothing I can't let go of. In this big world, the only thing I can't let go of is you. Fengjiu was overjoyed when she heard this, and the smile on her face couldn't be concealed, but she said, "What is there to not let go of? Even if I'm not by your side, I am very assured of you. I'm not afraid of you messing around." Xinyuan Mose glanced at her and said, "That is because you know that I don't get close to women." "Don't get close to women?" She playfully took a step back and looked at him from head to toe, her face full of ridicule. "You really don't get close to women? Who was it that moved his hands while sleeping at night? Who was it that had to hold her while sleeping at night? Who was it that whispered sweet words in her ear? And who was the one who complained about being neglected in a low voice by her ear?" Looking at her playful expression and the mischievous smile on her lips, Xinyuan Mose knew what she was thinking. His cold face was a little uncomfortable. He glanced at Ying Yi and Lung Shuang, who were a few meters behind him, and waved his hand to signal them to leave. Then he gave a light cough, hugged Fengjiu, and whispered in her ear, "You know, I only want to be close to you." Fengjiu wrapped her arms around his waist and asked with a smile, "Then, shouldn't we find a time to do something important first?" While speaking, a pair of irregular hands wandered around his waist. Feeling the body of the person beside her stiffen, she couldn't help but curl her lips into a smile. Something important? Xinyuan Mose's heart skipped a beat, and he grabbed the restless hands on his waist. Something important. She held back her laughter and nodded. For example, he lowered his head slightly and looked at her with a sly smile on her face. For example, the bridal chamber or something. She looked at a certain someone who was obviously suppressing his restlessness. She saw that his body was slightly stiff, his cold face was tense, his sexy thin lips were slightly pursed, and his ears and neck were already flushed red. "What do you think of my idea? Doesn't sound good?" She deliberately teased him, wrapping her arms around his neck and whispering into his ear, "Don't provoke them. Otherwise, the consequences will be severe." Xinyuan Mose fixed his eyes on her. His deep eyes were flickering with sparks, and his voice had become hoarse. "All right, I won't tease you anymore. I'm going to have a chat with my brothers." Feng Nine suddenly retreated from his side like a loach. She put her hands behind her back with a smile and stepped back step by step. Like a fairy, she gave him a charming and enchanting smile and said, "I'm leaving. Wait for me at night." Seeing her lightly tiptoeing like a fairy and disappearing from his sight in a few seconds, Xinyuan Mose's black eyes flashed with a trace of helplessness and pampering. This woman knew that he wouldn't eat her before they got married, so she dared to seduce him again and again. But wasn't he spoiling her too much by enduring it time and time again? Perhaps he should find a chance to put her suggestion into practice. Chapter 1766. On the other hand, when Fengjiu found Guan Shilin, he was fighting with Luo Yu and the others in the martial arts field. Surprisingly, the Emperor of Dongyao was also watching from the side. Seeing her, the Emperor of Dongyao was the first to come forward. Master, the Emperor of Dongyao Empire stepped forward and bowed. I was just about to look for you to report this matter to you. Do you have time? Hearing this, she glanced at the people in the martial arts field and said to the Emperor of Dongyao, "Let's go to the pavilion over there." Then, she turned and walked towards the pavilion. Sitting down in the pavilion, she could see the situation in the martial arts field. After watching for a while, she retracted her gaze and looked at the Emperor of Dongyao. "What's the matter? Tell me." "It's like this, Master. The other two emperors have already been taken over by us. I want to ask, what's your next plan? Do you want to send someone to take over these two empires?" "No, you could just take over Dongyao Empire. Everything will go according to your original plan." Feng Jiu glanced at him. "You haven't taken care of Dongyao yet, right? Since things here have been settled, let's go back first." As she spoke, she moved her hand and handed over a bottle. "There's an elixir in here that can help you advance. When you go back, find a suitable opportunity to take it." Seeing this, the Emperor of Dongyao could not help but take it excitedly. "Thank you, Master, for the elixir." He knew how powerful her elixir was. To think that the Emperor of Xianyuan, who had his inner core destroyed, could help him step onto the path of immortality again. That elixir was already an elixir. "Do well for me, and I won't treat you badly," Fengjiu said slowly. "Yes, Master, don't worry. I'll do my best for you. As long as it's your command, I won't dare to disobey," he hurriedly said, the hand holding the elixir trembling slightly. If he could advance again, his strength and lifespan would increase again. To him, this was something that he did not even dare to think about before. Fengjiu sat in the pavilion and watched after the king of Dongyao retreated. This place was higher than the martial arts field, so it was easier for him to see their moves clearly. Not long after, Guan Shilin retreated and rushed to the pavilion. "Xiaojie, why are you here?" "I had nothing to do, so I came over to take a look." She rested her chin on one hand as she spoke. She glanced at the Fengwei in the training field and then looked at Guan Shilin. "Brother, do you have any plans next?" Hearing that, Guan Shilin sat down and smiled. "I thought I'd tell you in a few days. Since you asked, I'll tell you." He paused, looked at her, and said, "I think the matters here are more or less settled. In a few days, I want to leave for the upper reaches of the continent." "In a few days?" She was slightly surprised. "So soon?" "Yes, there's nothing important here, so I want to go to the upper reaches of the continent and join the mercenary group. Then I'll continue my training." He laughed loudly and said, "Xiaojie, you become stronger, so I have to become stronger too. If you need my help in the future, I'll be able to stand up and help you. There's no better training than joining the mercenary group." Chapter 1767. Since you've already made up your mind, the only thing I can do is to give you some pills for self-defense. She took out 7 or 8 bottles of pills. Some of these pills can be used to save lives, some can be used to treat external and internal injuries, and some can be used to detoxify poisons. Take them. "So many?" Guan Shilin was stunned. Then he smiled and said, "Xiaojie, I know you don't lack pills, but it's not good for you to give me so many pills all at once, is it? Each of these pills is worth thousands of gold. How can you?" "Brother, you don't have to be so calculative with me. Keep them. Otherwise, I won't be at ease." She stuffed the pills into his hands. "Keep them, keep them." Seeing this, Guan Shilin could only keep the pills. After a while, he asked, "What about you? When you plan to go there, are you going to look for that force?" He looked at her with some worry and said, "Although you've already reached the peak of the Sage Immortal stage, there are still many experts there. Moreover, the force you're going to deal with definitely won't be lacking in Sage Immortals. I hope you can hide there first and don't attract too much attention." "Don't worry, I know." She felt warmth in her heart, knowing that he was worried about her. However, Guan Shilin rolled his eyes rudely and said, "You know? How would you know? Your appearance is too eye-catching. Even if you go there, there are very few people who can find someone with your appearance. Moreover, you're always dressed in red. As long as someone does a little research, they'll be able to find out where you came from. Maybe you won't even know when you'll be targeted. So, when you get there, even if Mose and the others are accompanying you, I hope that you can do something to your appearance. Also, it's best that you change your clothes. This red color is really eye-catching. He reminded her worriedly, as if he was her mother, and reminded her again and again. Yes, I'll remember. Fengjiu smiled and nodded in response. As if remembering something, Guan Shilin asked, "By the way, are Grandpa and the others planning to go back?" "Yes, I want the Feng Wei and the others to send them back. And Fengjiu, I also plan to leave them behind for Grandfather and Father to dispatch, so that when they do something, they won't have anyone by their side. However, I plan to bring Luo, you, and the others along, so that when we get there, we can secretly nurture our own forces." As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at the people in the training field. "Your arrangement is good." Guan Shilin nodded. He thought of little Feng Yi and hesitated. "Grandpa knows about little Feng Yi, right?" "Yes, I did tell him that we can't hide it from Grandpa. As for Grandmother, let's hide it from her for now. Her body can't take such a blow." Speaking of this, she sighed softly. If little Feng Yi and the others were still alive, how great would that be? Seeing the smile on her face fade and the sorrow in her eyes, he sighed and said, "Actually, we didn't see their bodies. Maybe they're really still alive. We should hold on to hope. Having hope in our hearts is also a good thing, isn't it?" Fengjiu smiled bitterly and didn't reply because she knew how slim the hope was. Chapter 1768. Fengjiu smiled. "There's no need to rush." She glanced at him and smiled ambiguously. A cultivator's lifespan is so long. It won't be too late to get married in a few decades. "Ha ha!" Guan Shilin laughed heartily. "If he really gets married in a few decades, I think he'll be worried to death." Fengjiu's smile deepened. "That's right. If he really gets married in a few decades, wouldn't he be worried to death? But when you get married, you have to let me know." "Okay." She smiled and nodded. The two chatted for a while before leaving. Fengjiu got up and went to her grandfather's place. She didn't go to the palace until the sky was getting dark. When Fengjiu walked into the palace, she saw that Xianyuan Mose was already sitting inside with a few dishes on the table. "You're back. Just in time, come and eat." As Xianyuan Mose spoke, he lifted the jug of wine and poured a cup for her as she sat down beside him. "Tonight, you could drink as much as you want." Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and looked at him with a faint smile. "You want to get me drunk?" "Ahem." Xianyuan Mose coughed lightly and looked away. "Why would I? I just want you to drink to your heart's content. Also, after thinking about it today, I think your suggestion today was pretty good." So, she looked at him from the corner of her eyes and took a sip of the wine in her cup. "So, if you get drunk and mess around, I've decided that I won't resist." He said these words with a tense and cold face. He looked expressionless, but if one looked closely, they could see that the corners of his lips were slightly curved, and a trace of a smile and expectation flashed through his black eyes. "Then what if I don't get drunk?" Fengjiu asked while holding back her laughter. Xianyuan Mose picked up the wine cup in front of him and drank it in one gulp. He said in a low and magnetic voice, "If you don't get drunk, then it can be me." Pooh! In the end, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. She looked at him with a smile. In Xianyuan Mose's eyes, her beautiful face was enchanting and charming. "So, in any case, we're going to consummate our marriage tonight?" No. How could this be considered a bridal chamber? You're clearly trying to force yourself on me." At this point, she covered her mouth and chuckled softly. Her laughter rang out softly. Xianyuan Mose gave her another glass of wine and said seriously, "I'm actually looking forward to you forcing yourself on me. Don't worry, I won't resist." "Good. Then come, drink." She chuckled and looked at him with sparkling eyes. She was a little excited. Was she going to pounce on him tonight? What would happen to him if he refused to acknowledge the debt after eating it from the beginning to the end? Xianyuan Mose looked at her deeply. Seeing that she had drunk another glass, he picked up some food for her and said, "Eat some food." Then, he added, You'll have strength when you're full. Fengjiu was stunned when she heard this. Then, she smiled and nodded in agreement. That's right. I'm the one doing the work, so I have to eat more. As she spoke, she picked up a drumstick and gnawed on it. Hearing this, Xianyuan Moses' eyes gradually darkened, and a trace of expectation flashed across his dark eyes. Yes, he was looking forward to her doing her work, but this was the first time, so he should be the one taking the lead, right? Chapter 1769. Seeing his actions, Fengjiu laughed in his heart. His heart was warm, and there was an indescribable satisfaction and tenderness. A man who could wait for you and not cross the last threshold, even if he had to endure, hold back, and be willing to soak in cold water when he was aroused. What reason did she have to refuse such a person? How could she bear to make him wait? Here, try this. She narrowed her eyes and gave him a piece of meat with a smile. Eat more. Seeing this, he glanced at her and responded, then picked up the piece of meat to eat. Fengjiu put down his chopsticks and shouted to the outside, Lung Shuang. Hearing the voice from inside, Lung Shuang, who was waiting outside, responded and walked in. Master, what's the matter? Lung Shuang, prepare water for me to take a bath. I want to soak in it later. Because of the wine, her face was slightly red, and her beautiful eyes had a trace of blurriness, which was very tempting. Yes, Lung Shuang respectfully responded and then left. Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything, but he was obviously a little absent-minded. Not long after, he put down his chopsticks. I'm full. As he spoke, he stared at her. Then how about a few more cups of wine? Her beautiful face was full of smiles. She poured 2 more cups of wine, handed one to him, and picked up the other. She smiled and narrowed her eyes. Should we drink a cup of wine? Hearing this, Xianyuan Moses' eyes moved slightly, and his deep eyes stared at her in front of him. The corners of his lips curled up, revealing a smile. Yes, a cup of wine can't be missed. As he spoke, he took the wine cup she handed over and wrapped his hand around hers. Their hands hooked together, closing the distance between them. Just by smelling, a thick smell of wine spread between their noses. Just as he hooked his hand around Fengjiu's to drink a cup of wine, his hand was stopped by Fengjiu. Wait a minute. Fengjiu smiled and looked at him. A cup of wine is not drunk like this. Xianyuan Mose was slightly startled, as if he didn't understand. Not drunk like this? Then how should they drink? For a moment, his eyes were fixed on her body as he silently asked her. Like this. She drank the wine in the cup, then leaned forward and kissed those sexy thin lips. The soft touch pressed down, and Xianyuan Moses' eyes were dark. He instinctively responded to her kiss, gently sucking her lips, and their tongues played together, tasting the wine together. He couldn't tell whether her lips were exceptionally sweet or the wine she gave him was intoxicating. He only knew that the beast in his body seemed to have awakened because of her kiss, and it couldn't be stopped. Fengjiu only felt her heart beating fast, and her body seemed to be on fire. The hand tightly around her waist pressed her hard, causing her whole body to be pressed against his chest. The man's unique scent accompanied by the fragrance of wine hit her face, making her unconsciously twist her body, wanting to retreat. However, his deep and passionate kiss did not allow her to retreat. His passionate breath and passionate kiss caused her to be in a daze. She only felt her mind go blank, and her body weakly lay in his embrace, lightly gasping for breath, allowing him to do whatever he wanted to her. Chapter 1770. His gaze moved away from her mesmerized eyes and landed on her slightly opened lips that were slightly panting. Looking at those tender lips that were slightly red and swollen from the passionate kiss, as if inviting him to taste them again, his eyes darkened. He raised his hand that was holding the wine cup and poured the wine into his mouth. Once again, he bent down and sucked on those tender and juicy red lips. A lingering and passionate deep kiss made Fengjiu breathless. She gently pushed him away, her face flushed red, and her beautiful eyes were filled with affection as she angrily looked at him. "I can't breathe." Hearing this, Xianyuan most chuckled. His deep voice was hoarse and magnetic in the night, very charming. Hearing the Lung Shuang outside report that the bath water was ready, he picked her up and walked to the bathroom in the bedroom. In the bathtub, the two figures of a man and a woman were like mandarin ducks, foolishly entangled with each other and playing in the water. In the bathroom, it was a scene of endless spring that made people's hearts beat faster. Yunyang was so embarrassed that she hid in the clouds after the bath. Xianyuan Mo stood up and picked her up. Treating her as a treasure, he carefully wiped off the water on her body and then carried her to the bed in the bedroom. He laid her flat on the bed and looked at the beautiful jade-like person that was naked in front of him. He only felt a surge of evil fire in his body. However, at this moment, the person on the bed suddenly reached out and pulled him down. However, in the next moment, he saw the person that was supposed to be under him flip over and switch positions with him. The quilt that had been left to the side was finally pulled up, covering their naked bodies, only revealing their snow-white beautiful backs and perfectly round snow-white shoulders. Xianyuan Mo's eyes were deep, and his eyes were filled with lust. His hoarse voice with magnetism and darkness came out. "Do you really want to be the dominant one?" Faintly, there was an indescribable meaning in his voice. Fengjiu's charming eyes met his deep gaze with affection. She didn't speak, but used her actions to express her thoughts. She bent down and pressed her lips on his eyes. She brushed past his ears and whispered, "Close your eyes and feel it." Because of her words, Xianyuan Mo's closed his eyes. But because he closed his eyes, his senses became clearer. He only knew that her lips brushed past his earlobe, then came to his Adam's apple and gently bit it. He only felt his body stiffen, but with a muffled groan, his entire body tensed up. She went all the way down, her fingers brushing past his firm chest, straight to his 8-pack. Her fingers lightly brushed past his gasps and muffled groans. She happily laughed. "Little Demonis." He took a deep breath, opened his eyes, and met those beautiful eyes that were full of smiles. "You have a hold on. The best part is yet to come." She chuckled. Now that she was in control, she could finally catch her breath. She no longer panted weakly. On the contrary, his body was stretched taut beneath her like a taut string of a zither. With a light pluck, a beautiful melody could be heard. Chapter 1771. Just as the room was filled with passion and the spring scenery was boundless, outside the palace hall, Murong Yixian hurried over with an anxious expression. However, before he could step into the bedroom, he was stopped by Ying Yi, who was guarding outside the bedroom. "Young Master Murong, my master and the ghost doctor are already resting. If there's anything, please come back tomorrow." Murong Yixian looked at him and frowned. "I have an urgent matter. I must see Fengjiu." Ying Yi's expression didn't change. "No matter how urgent it is, you have to wait until tomorrow. They're already resting now. My master told me not to disturb them at all." Hearing this, Murong Yixian's gaze moved slightly as if he thought of something. He looked towards the bedroom and saw that the lights were still on. "This matter is extremely urgent. It can't be delayed. If it wasn't really urgent, I wouldn't have come to disturb them. Go in and inform them that I must see Fengjiu." Hearing this, Ying Yi frowned. "I'm sorry. This is my master's order. Forgive me for not daring to disobey." What urgent matter could it be? No matter how urgent it was, it couldn't be more urgent. They were in the bridal chamber. His master had waited for this day for a long time. How could he let others ruin it? Seeing him like this, Murong Yixian's face darkened. "If you don't help me inform them, then I can only offend them." As soon as he spoke, the guard in black who had been following behind him suddenly attacked Ying Yi in front of him. Ying Yi was slightly angry when he saw this. He stopped him, and the two of them fought outside the bedroom. The sound alarmed the Lung Shuang inside. She walked out and saw that it was Murong Yixian. She asked coldly, "What's the matter?" "I have an urgent matter to find your master." As Murong Yixian spoke, his gaze moved away from her. His voice which contained spiritual power, came out of his mouth and was clearly transmitted into the bedroom. Fengjiu, I have an urgent matter to ask for your help. Inside the bedroom, the two people on the bed were panting slightly. Xianyuan Mose was about to turn over and start attacking when he heard Murong Yixian's voice from outside. His handsome face immediately darkened. Ignore him. As he spoke, he bent down and held her soft waist with one hand. When Fengjiu heard Murong Yishuan's voice, he was also stunned, especially when he saw Xianyuan Mose's dark expression. He couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that every time they tried to do something intimate, someone would interrupt them. Fengjiu, I really have something urgent that I need your help with. This is a matter of life and death. Please come out. Murong Yixian's voice rang out from outside, and from the sound of it, it seemed to be getting closer and closer to the two people in the palace. Hearing that, Fengjiu paused for a moment. He pressed his hand against Xianyuan Mose's chest to stop him from moving. I think I should go out and take a look. Listen to the sound. If I don't go out, he'll probably force his way in. How dare he? Xianyuan Mose gritted his teeth in anger. His face was ashen. Anyone who was interrupted by someone else would feel angry, especially at such a critical juncture. However, the good atmosphere had been ruined by Murong Yixian. He's not someone who doesn't know what's good for him. Maybe there really is something important. She comforted him and patted his back gently. Chapter 1772. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled wickedly, an evil glint flashing through her eyes. She looked at him and suddenly reached out her hand towards his lower body. Will you still suffocate like this? Then her hand moved. Xianyuan Mose groaned, and his body stiffened. After his body trembled slightly, his entire body lay down. He seemed a little helpless, but also a little doting. Bad thing. Fengjiu chuckled slyly and wickedly. It's said that women don't love bad men, and men don't love bad women either. He. She turned over and got out of bed, wrapped herself in a bath towel, and soaked in the bathtub for a while. Only then did she wipe off the water on her body and put on a clean set of clothes. Feng, when Murong Yixian's voice sounded again, before he could call out her name, he saw Fengjiu in red walking over. When he saw the seductive blush on her face, the charm in her eyes that had yet to dissipate, and her tender and slightly swollen lips, his eyes flashed. There was a faint stab of pain in his heart, a trace of disappointment, and a trace of jealousy. What's the matter? She asked, her voice unable to hide her charm. Perhaps because she realized that her voice still carried a seductive charm, she glanced at Murong Yixian and coughed lightly. Sorry to disturb you. As he spoke, he walked forward and said with a serious expression, I just received a message from 1,000 miles away. My Shizhuan has been poisoned and his life is at stake. I want you to come with me and save my Shizhuan's life. Hearing this, Fengjiu raised an eyebrow. The upper continent? It'll take at least 10 days to reach the upper continent. If it's really poison, even if we rush over, your Shizhuan will already be beyond saving. What's more, there are many strong practitioners in the upper continent. How could there not be a doctor who knows how to cure the poison? If there isn't, I might not be able to help even if I go. Although she wanted to go to the upper continent, it wasn't to her liking to leave in such a hurry without making any preparations. What's more, she wanted to go with Zay. If she went first, how could she let Zay stay? The two of them were separated again. Murong Yixian smiled bitterly. With my master's strength and cultivation, those who can injure him are definitely not ordinary people. Our sect also has extremely outstanding doctors and alchemists. However, they can only suppress the poison in my master's body, but they can't cure the poison. Right now, my master has already fallen into a coma. It's precisely because of the crisis of the situation and the fact that my master only has me as his only disciple that the sect sent me a message from 1,000 miles away to immediately return and see my master for the last time. At this point, he looked deeply into Fengjiu's eyes. Lifting his robes, he knelt down and said, Fengjiu, I know this request is difficult for you, but I owe my master a great debt of gratitude. I can't give up when there's a chance. Please come with me to save him. As long as you are willing to return to the sect with me, I will be grateful to you regardless of the final outcome. He knew that Fengjiu could definitely cure the poison that others couldn't. What was even rarer was that she was here right now. As long as he agreed, his master would definitely be saved. Fengjiu looked at Murong Yixian, who was kneeling in front of her, and was momentarily stunned. Even when she wanted to kill his father, he didn't beg her like this. It seemed that his Shizhuan was really important to him, so important that he didn't hesitate to kneel down and beg her. Chapter 1773. Hearing this, Murong Yixian's eyes lit up. She had agreed to it. He immediately said, I have it. My master once gave me a teleportation scroll that can directly transport me back to the sect. If I use the teleportation scroll, I can reach the sect's teleportation array in about 2 hours. Get up. As she spoke, she looked at him and said, You saved my grandfather and grandmother. This time, I'll repay you for saving your master. As she spoke, she looked at the sky and continued, Go to the front and wait for me. I'll go with you after I've arranged things. All right, he replied. He stood up, turned around, and walked out. Ying Yi and the black-clothed guard outside stopped when Fengjiu came out. After Murong Yixian and the others left, Ying Yi hurriedly stepped forward. Ghost Doctor, are you really going with him? Amen. He saved my grandfather and grandmother and asked me for help like this. How can I not go? As she spoke, she looked at Lung Shuang. Help me call Luo Yu and Du Fan to the front, as well as my brother, grandfather, and grandmother. I have something to say to them. After she instructed, she turned around. As she turned around, she saw that Xinyuan Mose was already dressed and standing by the door. His expression was still not good, and his face was tense. He had obviously heard everything just now. She walked forward and held his hand. You heard everything? Amen, he replied, looked at her in front of him, and only instructed, Be careful when you get there. Don't be too flamboyant when you do things. Keep a low profile and don't attract attention. He didn't stop her from going. Firstly, she had already made up her mind. Secondly, Murong Yixian had saved her grandfather and grandmother. Now he was kneeling and begging. Just a few days ago, she said that if he needed help in the future, she would definitely help. If she didn't go, this might become her inner demon in the future. Although they hadn't been together for long, and he was reluctant to see her leave again, he already knew that she wasn't an ordinary woman. Naturally, she couldn't be compared to ordinary women. From a long time ago, he knew that if she could do many things, she wouldn't rely on others. Right now, the only thing he was worried about was whether she would be safe over there. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and reached out to hug his waist. I know. Don't worry. I'll miss you when I get there. When you're done here, come and find me. I'll wait for you over there. He gently caressed her face and planted a kiss on her forehead. Let's go. I'll accompany you to the front. Fengjiu was led by him to the front of the palace. In the palace, Du Fan, Guan Shilin, and the others were already there. Even her grandfather and grandmother were there, so she told them about what had happened. That's right. So I'll go with Murong Yixian first to see if his master's poison can be cured. Feng Sanyuan nodded. Don't worry and go. Don't worry about us. We will bring the Phoenix Guards to meet up with your father. As for Du Fan and Luo Yu, they can go with Shilin in a few days. Chapter 1774. All right. Thank you. Fengjiu nodded and replied with a smile. Looking at his pale face, she asked with concern, Are you really all right? Do you need me to take a look at you? Or perhaps take some medicine? No need. Imochen shook his head. He knew his own body well. He had only suffered internal injuries from the backlash and would be fine after some time. Seeing this, Fengjiu didn't say anything else. After she gave some instructions to the Phoenix Guards, she spoke with her grandfather and grandmother for a while. Finally, she said to Lung Shuang and Lung Hua, You don't have to follow me. When the time comes, come with Du Fan and the others." Hearing this, Feng Sanyuan was a little worried. "Don't you plan to bring 1 or 2 people with you? If you go there alone, won't it be—" "It's fine, grandfather." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "Murong Yixian's transportation array leads to his sect. It's not convenient for me to bring too many people with me. Moreover, it's more convenient for me to do anything alone. Let Lung Shuang and the others go with Du Fan and the others. That way, we can take care of each other." "All right then. However, you must promise grandfather to be careful. You mustn't stand out too much," Feng Sanyuan said worriedly. "Amen. I know," she replied with a smile. She smiled and responded. Then, she glanced at the crowd and said, "His master's situation is urgent. I'll take my leave first." Thus, everyone sent her out. When she arrived outside, Murong Yixian was already waiting there. "Say, I'm leaving. I'll wait for you over there." Feng Jiu looked at him and said, "Go. Be careful." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he gently stroked her hair. Feng Jiu turned and walked towards Murong Yixian, stopping beside him. As for Murong Yixian, he cupped his hands and bowed to everyone. Then, he took out a teleportation scroll. With a flash of light, a teleportation circle with surging spiritual energy appeared on the ground. In the next moment, the 3 people in the teleportation circle shot out and disappeared with a whoosh. Seeing the worry on his grandfather's face, Guan Shilin said, "Grandpa, don't worry. Fire Phoenix and Old White are with Xiao Jiao. She'll be fine. She can take care of herself." And Feng Sanyuan nodded, then looked at Xianyuan Mose. "I want to leave in 2 days." "All right." Xianyuan Mose nodded. "Feng Jiu has arranged for people to escort you back. If you need anything, just let me know." As soon as Feng Jiu and Murong Yixian left, they began to make arrangements for the following matters. In the 8 Great Empire's black market, the owner of the black market, who had just returned, couldn't help but shake his head and smile after hearing about Feng Jiu's recent matters. "I really didn't expect so many things to happen in less than a year. She really knows how to cause trouble." An old man smiled at the side. "That's right. This ghost doctor's actions are always unexpected." She came to the black market to ask to see Master, but Master hasn't returned yet. There's another matter. "Oh, she came? What a coincidence. I also wanted to see her in person. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance." The owner of the black market chuckled and asked, "What's the other matter?" Chapter 1775. Take away her black token. The owner of the black market sneered. "Who has the guts to do that? Chop off his hand." He paused and said with a displeased expression, "The branches have to be reorganized. They really don't have any rules." "Yes." The old man lowered his eyes and did not dare to speak again. After a while, the owner of the black market asked again, "Where is this Feng Jiu now?" "She should be in the Xianyuan Palace." The old man said and asked again, "Master, should I ask her to come over?" "Forget it. There will be a chance to meet her in the future." He waved his hand, indicating for the old man to leave. The old man bowed and left. After the old man left, the owner of the black market walked to the window and looked out. The sky was misty, the moon was high up in the sky, and the stars in the night sky were shining brightly. On the other side, in the upper reaches of the Huaxian sect. The Huaxian sect was one of the 4 great sects of the upper reaches of the righteous path. Here, there were disciples from all over the upper reaches of the continent. Talented people could be found everywhere. The disciples of the various clans in the upper reaches of the continent were proud of being able to enter the 4 great immortal sects. One reason was because they were backed by the great sections. Another reason was because they were all outstanding experts. The disciples of the 4 great immortal sects, no matter where they were definitely more outstanding than others. The masters of these people, as well as the peak masters of the various peaks, were even more extraordinary. Now, the Huaxian sect's perfected Lord Yuanqing was poisoned and his life was hanging by a thread. Even if the Huaxian sect wanted to cover this up, they could not stop the news from spreading. Almost as soon as the news spread, Some people felt pity, some sighed, and some secretly rejoiced. Each of those perfected lords was like Mount Tai of the sect. If one of them died, it would be a huge blow to the Huasian sect. According to what they knew, this perfected Lord Yuan Qing did not have many disciples like the others. He only had one disciple called Murong Yishuan. That night, on one of the main peaks of the Huasian sect, the various peak masters and sect masters of the sect were gathered. Their faces were solemn, causing the atmosphere in the immortal cave abode to be oppressive. Did you inform the disciple of perfected Lord Yuan Qing? The sect master looked at everyone and asked. We notified them 4 hours ago, but they haven't returned yet. Someone replied, why hasn't Murong Yishuan returned yet? The sect's teleportation array would take at most an hour to reach there. How ridiculous! A true monarch who was on good terms with true monarch Yuan Qing said with a dark expression. What's funny is that the crazy old man actually said that he won't die. The black-faced true monarch snorted heavily. No one in the entire sect has a solution, and the situation is like this. I want to see if everything will be fine when the time comes. Otherwise, I will definitely smash his reputation. The others did not say anything and sighed internally. This time around, perfected Lord Yuan Qing might not be able to make it through. However, the crazy old man in their sect who had nothing better to do said that perfected Lord Yuan Qing was not fated to die. They hoped that perfected Lord Yuan Qing would be fine, as he said. However, the situation was already like this. It was obvious that no one could do anything about it. Who could save him? Chapter 1776. Just as they were thinking, they heard a doctor hurriedly walk out and look at them with a serious expression. Not good. Lord Yuan Qing's situation is getting worse. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for much longer. Hearing this, all the peak masters couldn't sit still and walked inside. At this place, at the sect's transportation array, a ray of light flashed and Fengjiu, Murong Yishuan, and the black-clothed guard appeared in the array. Senior brother Murong, you're finally back. Quickly go and see Lord Yuan Qing. He's about to die. The disciple who was ordered to guard the transportation array hurriedly said when he saw him. However, when he saw that he had brought a red-clothed young master with him, he couldn't help but be startled. When Murong Yishuan heard this, he immediately grabbed Fengjiu's hand, who was looking around, and brought her to the main peak on his sword. When Fengjiu saw this, she glanced at him and withdrew her hand. Murong Yishuan reacted and looked at her apologetically. Sorry, I was just too worried. She responded. Looking at the mountain peak that was covered in clouds and mist, she couldn't help but praise in her heart when she saw this spiritual aura that was denser than that of the 8 great empires. It was indeed a good place. On one of the mountain peaks of Huasian sect, an old man dressed in gray was drinking wine. When he raised his head, he saw a star in the sky flashing. He chuckled and muttered, It's here. The phoenix star is here. When they reached the main peak, Murong Yishuan went straight to the cave. Master! He quickly rushed inside. When everyone heard his voice, they looked back and saw him coming in. They opened up a path for him to reach the bed inside. Master! When he saw that his master on the bed was covered in a dark purple color, Murong Yishuan's heart trembled, and he hurriedly turned around to look for Fengjiu. No need to look for me. I'm here. Fengjiu, who had appeared at the head of the bed, said without raising her head. She looked at the old man lying on the bed and was a little surprised. However, when everyone looked at the young man who had suddenly appeared and was wearing a red robe, it was obvious that he wasn't a member of their sect. Furthermore, he had somehow squeezed his way to stand in front of them at the head of the bed. The peak masters couldn't help but look at each other. Who was this young man? Why did he suddenly appear? When they saw the red-robed youth standing by the bed and examining perfected Lord Yuan Qing, they were just about to ask about it when they heard the youth's unhurried voice. Take off your Shurzuan shirt and get someone to bring a basin to let out the blood. Fengjiu took out a silver needle from his space and ordered while disinfecting it with fire. Black Wind, fetch me a basin of water. Murong Yishuan shouted to the outside. Without another word, he untied his master's shirt. When he saw the dark purple handprint on his master's chest, his heart couldn't help but sink. The black-robed guard outside quickly brought the basin of water and placed it to the side. Then, he silently retreated. When the sect master and the peak masters saw that Fengjiu had taken out a silver needle and was about to insert it, one of them immediately shouted, "Wait a moment!" But who would have thought that after he shouted, the red-robed youth didn't even pause. He took the silver needle and inserted it into several of the major acupoints on perfected Lord Yuanqing's body. The sect master glared at him and was a little angry. He was about to step forward when he was stopped by Murong Yixian. Chapter 1777. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and looked at each other without saying a word. The faction leader frowned and asked, "He's so young. How would he know how to neutralize this poison? If he were to act recklessly, wouldn't it be?" Faction leader. Her name is Fengjiu, also known as the Ghost Doctor. "I believe in her," Murong Yishuan said calmly. Seeing that he had said so, the faction leader did not stop him and only nodded. "All right then." The faction's doctors and pill masters had all said that there was no hope for Lord Yuanqing, but he still held on to a glimmer of hope. "This kid looks to be around 20 years old. Does he really have the ability?" The black-faced and short-tempered peak master said. It was not that he did not have hope, but the person Murong Yishuan had found did not seem very reliable. At this moment, no one knew Fengjiu's identity, nor had they heard of Fengjiu's name or the Ghost Doctor. After all, the upper and lower continents were separated by a great distance. Furthermore, the people from the upper continents would not pay attention to the people from the lower continents. Naturally, they would not know who Fengjiu was. Hence, they would never have thought that the person in front of them was Fengxing, whom they had sent out to search for. Hence, when they saw the red-robed man named Fengjiu take out a dagger and slash at Lord Yuanqing's wrist, their eyes widened. What is he doing? Bleeding like this, even a living person would not be able to take it. The black-faced peak master said and glared at Fengjiu with his tiger-like eyes. Fengjiu frowned when he heard the voices and cries of alarm. He turned around and glanced at them, then looked at Murong Yishuan. "It's too noisy, go outside." Faction leader, peak masters, please wait outside for a moment. Murong Yishuan did as he was told without hesitation. After all, she had said on the way here that she would have the final say in the treatment. This kid is too. The black-faced peak master glared at Fengjiu and was about to teach him a lesson when he was stopped by the faction leader. "All right, let's all go outside." As the sect leader spoke, he instructed the two people beside him, "You two stay and see if you need any help." One of them was a doctor and the other was an alchemist. When they heard the sect master's order, they responded, "Yes." Fengjiu glanced at the two men and said, "Since you want to help, don't just stand there. Untie his other hand." She instructed as she stepped back to wash her hands. Seeing that the basin of clear water had turned into purplish-black blood, he ordered someone to change it. It was only after 3 consecutive basins of water that the color of the blood finally cleared up. However, perfected Lord Yuanqing's face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and his aura was so weak that it seemed like he would die at any moment. When Fengjiu saw this, he immediately took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, he called out to Murong Yixian, "Pour a cup of warm water." Murong Yixian quickly went outside to pour a cup of water and handed it to her. He saw her choking his honored master's mouth and pouring the water into his mouth. His eyelids twitched when he saw that clean action. The two people who were helping at the side were also dumbfounded when they saw this. In their eyes, this action could not be any more crude. However, when they saw that perfected Lord Yuanqing's disciple did not say anything, they did not say anything either. After all, in their eyes, this red-robed youth still had some skills. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.